Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 19 meeting of the Ann Arbor City Council. If you're able, please rise and join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would our clerk please call the roll of council?
Councilmember Dish?
Here.
Councilmember Harrison? Absent. Councilmember Watson? Absent. Councilmember Malik?
Here.
Councilmember Medina?
Here.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Here.
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Iyer?
Here.
Councilmember Ackman?
Here.
Councilmember Briggs?
Here.
Councilmember Cornell?
Here.
We have a quorum.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilmember Iyer, seconded by Councilmember Ackman. Discussion of the agenda. All in favor? All opposed? The agenda is approved. Do we have communications today from our city administrator?
No, Mayor.
We do have the pleasure of an introduction from the Executive Director of the Downtown Development Authority. Ms. Thompson, you have the con.
Thank you. Wait for my presentation to come up. Should it be on all screens? Oh, here we go. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So tonight I wanted to use my time to give you all some updates on the parking system.
My apologies. Ma'am, would you please lower your sign below shoulder level so that people behind you can see? That is the rule of council. Thank you. The rule is that you keep it below your shoulder level. That is the rule. Thank you. My apologies.
No problem. We'll start with utilization and revenue. So this graph that you're looking at is a COVID impact and recovery revenue trend chart. And you've probably seen some of this before. But just high level, FY 2019 was our last pre-pandemic year. We came in at about $23 million in revenue. You can see FY 21 was a full pandemic year and our revenue was cut almost in half. However, beginning in 2022, we've started to see that slow recovery. We have budgeted FY24 to come in at about $24 million. However, with how things are trending right now, we anticipate coming in about 10% higher than that. So as a reminder, the city does receive 20% of gross parking revenue, so that will be about or over $5 million for the city. And this is occupancy, and this is just a point in time. So this is comparing March 2024 occupancy, the orange bars, to March 2025, the blue bars. This is showing all of our parking structures and the Klein lot. And you can see that utilization is up across the system with the exception of Maynard, and remember that's just the month of March. And I wanted to share some information on the Go Pass. So this is our grant history. The parking system supports the Get Downtown program and also funds the Go Pass on a per ride basis. So this grant amount directly correlates to Go Pass ridership. So you can see that the COVID impact and recovery really mirrors the parking system exactly, except much more dramatic. FY 2019, that grant was almost $800,000, cut to FY 21, which was, again, that full pandemic year, and it was cut, over 85%. They are trending in the right direction. You can see the recovery began in 2022 and continues. We are optimistic about the Go Pass, and we look forward to a time when that grant level gets back to those pre-pandemic levels. And with the enhancements that the ride has made to service and frequency, we're very encouraged. So now to switch gears, talk just really briefly about some restoration and maintenance highlights. We are just about finished with a $1.1 million rooftop fencing replacement projects at 6 of our structures. 5 have been completed. Liberty Square remains to be done, and we anticipate that happening next month. And you can see, as an example from the photos, the enhanced fencing that we have installed. We also have a $1.3 million sustainability project in 2 of our structures. We are having supply chain issues, so that project has been delayed. However, once we do have our products, we will be replacing 880 metal, halide, and fluorescent fixtures with LEDs. We'll have systems that will include motion sensors, dimming capabilities, and daylight harvesting, and we should see a reduction in our electrical load by about 70%. And then accessible parking. So through our curbside management study, we did an evaluation of on-street accessible parking. So PROAG, the Public Rights of Way Accessibility Guidelines, those standards have been updated. They have not been adopted yet at the federal level, but they have been updated. So we wanted to kind of get ahead of that and make sure that we were in compliance. So those PROAG guidelines for on-street spaces require 1 ADA space for every 25 paid spaces on a block perimeter. So we did the analysis of the entire parking area, figured out what we had to add to be in compliance or exceed. To date, we have converted 45 ADA spaces. We have another 15 that we anticipate having completed by the end of the summer, which will bring our total ADA spaces on street up to 130, which is more than double where we started. PROAG has also set new standards for installing ADA spaces on newly constructed or significantly constructed streets. Again, those standards have not been adopted yet, and we do need more information on the definition of what a significantly reconstructed street is. However, we wanted to do a test case, and we had a project on North 4th Ave where we were able to install one of these spaces. We wanted to learn what the impacts would be on the project in terms of timing and cost. So that's an example, or that is a picture of the space we installed. You can see that it requires a curb cut that allows the person to pull right up next to the curb, next to the sidewalk, and a sidewalk ramp. What we learned from this installation is that every space is going to be unique. It's going to be critical that we do underground exploration because the depth of things like gas lines, other utilities, and conduit make a difference, and there will be cases, we were lucky we didn't have that in this case, but where gas lines and other conduit and utilities will have to be moved, which will add significant timing and cost to projects. So as an example of this project, this space added about $40,000 to the overall project cost. We are also working to make some enhancements on our website to ADA space locations. It should be done in the next couple of weeks. We're adding a static map, we're adding an interactive map, and I think most important, we're adding a companion document that describes each space with details such as where it is located on the block, what the adjacent material is to the space, and any obstructions. Because we know with our downtown, things aren't perfect, and there are places where there's signs and bike hoops and benches and different things. So we want to be able to give people as much information as we can. And then finally, parking rates. You all may remember that last spring, the DDA board approved a 3-year schedule of rate increases. That first rate increase went into effect last July 1st. Our second rate increase is coming up this July 1st. It will bring parking structure hourly rates to $1.65, our monthly permit rates to $245, and our on-street meter rates to $2.50. That final increase in this schedule will be next July 1st, and at that same time, we will start evaluating rates into the future. And that is all I have, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. We now come to public comment reserve time. Public comment reserve time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment reserve time, one needs to have signed up in advance by contacting our city clerk. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. I note today that we have 21 persons signed up to speak at public comment reserve time. The rules of council provide that we have public comment reserve time for either 45 minutes of public comment at the beginning of the meeting, that we reserve 45 minutes for public comment at the beginning of the meeting, and then if there remains anyone on our list who has not yet had an opportunity to speak, that person has an opportunity to speak towards the end of the meeting at public comment overflow time. So we will hear public comment for 45 minutes or 15, or at the least 15 persons. And then if there's any time remaining under that 45-minute limit, we'll go to 16, 17, perhaps 18. And then the balance will be have their opportunity to speak at public comment overflow time. Our first speaker today is Eric Ivonsich.
Mr. Ivonsich is joining us on Zoom. Eric Ivonsich, you can go ahead and speak.
Good evening. My name is Eric Ivonsich, and I'm calling from the 3rd Ward. I want to thank Council members Briggs, Ackman, and Cornell for introducing Amendment 2 to item DS8 as part of our city's 2024-2025 budget. We know that making our roads safer is one of the most effective ways to protect people every day and every year. Unfortunately, despite the city's commitment to Vision Zero back in 2015, we have fallen short of our goal to eliminate traffic deaths and serious injuries. One proven approach to improving safety is a road diet, reconfiguring a 4-lane road into 3 lanes, including a center turn lane. Studies show that can reduce crashes by 19% to 47% by making traffic flow more predictable, lowering speeds, and reducing dangerous conflicts between vehicles. Road diets also make walking and biking safer. Fewer lanes mean shorter crossings for pedestrians, and adding features like refuge islands helps protect them further. These changes can also create room for bike lanes, bus stops, and other transportation options, making the streets more accessible for everyone. Many locals who use our streets that have undergone recent road diets, whether walking, biking, or driving, say they feel safer and that the roads work better. Importantly, many of these improvements can be done quickly with quick builds, low-cost, fast-deploy solutions that bring immediate benefits. And that is why Amendment 2 is an important next step, as it will provide the money necessary for some of these projects. And is an appropriate follow-on to the commitment you unanimously approved on April 7th to more fully incorporate Vision Zero into city projects. Right now, the city does not have full control over many of the 4-lane roads running through town. However, Stadium Boulevard is one road that we do manage, and I hope some of these quick build funds will be used there. Beyond Amendment 2, I also trust that our city administrator is working actively using the authority you've given him to negotiate the transfer of state trunk lines to city control. With his expertise and the talent of our city staff, I'm confident we can make progress and that results of these negotiations are forthcoming. Thank you for your recent efforts focused on safety, and I urge you to pass our Amendment 2 unanimously.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Walker.
Good evening, Council. My name is John Walker, and I am currently Community Engagement Specialist at A Brighter Way, as well as a peer navigator. My interest here today is to speak to the primary benefit of the case of rising hope, and refunding the budget to establish or maintain the support. I thank you for your previous votes in support of this particular issue and the partnerships that have been established for returning citizens. Interestingly, individuals with stable housing are far less likely to reoffend. Rising Hope has provided the foundation to the necessary benefit of individuals who lack safe and affordable housing. They also provide opportunity for individuals who are provided safe housing, the likelihood that they will be able to contribute successfully to our community. I'm grateful that this particular initiative will decrease homelessness and the opportunity for need of emergency services. Stable housing increases an individual's ability to secure and maintain employment. As I mentioned the last time I was here a few weeks ago, I'm an example of that, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be and speak before you, because without the opportunities provided by A Brighter Way in their navigation process, I would not be here. And there are seats occupied behind me that point to that fact as well. I'm grateful that Ann Arbor seeks to address systemic barriers, which include discrimination against those who are or have been previously incarcerated. You can only imagine the barriers that I face after serving 46 years and 11 days. So incredibly, without refunding hope, Rising Hope for Housing, and its partnerships and its connections, what happens to people like me? What happens when we do succeed, but the burdens and the issues of life are so insurmountable? We get employment, but we fall ill with sickness. We are unable to navigate in the technology realm. When we don't have individuals who have shared experiences and have empathy and compassion for us. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Margaret McCall.
Good evening. My name is Margaret McCall. I live by Burr Park, and I'm here to encourage you to please vote this evening to pass the road safety amendment and to prioritize taking action ASAP to make Ann Arbor's roads safer for both cyclists and pedestrians. I am an avid cyclist, as you can see, and a new mom, and my baby is just getting to the age where I'm excited to start biking with him in a trailer, and in theory this should be a really joyful time. But I am incredibly nervous. Most of the bike routes that I typically take in Ann Arbor have a level of risk that I don't find acceptable for my son. Even to bike a few minutes from our house to his daycare requires trusting the paint and pray bike lanes on Stone School and navigating 2 or 3 truly nerve-wracking intersections. Getting downtown on Packard feels pretty dicey, and getting across town on Stadium feels, frankly, irresponsible. And if an avid biker like me is so nervous, reducing our reliance on cars as a city seems like a distant dream. I have been deeply troubled by the recent rash of pedestrians injured or killed in Ann Arbor. It is literally keeping me up at night. It is vital that the city allocate funds to improve road safety for vulnerable road users, especially in light of the 820 goal. We must pass Amendment 2 to allocate road safety funds in the city budget. I would further encourage the city to prioritize spending this money on quick build projects ASAP, for instance, on a Stadium Road diet, to test out promising concepts sooner. Because if Ann Arbor gets stuck in analysis paralysis on road reconfigurations, people will die in the meantime. I feel sad to make a statement about biking, which is something that I truly love, with such a negative tone to it. I really want to feel happy and safe when I think about biking in this beautiful city with my family. So please prioritize funding bike and pedestrian safety for this coming fiscal year by passing the road safety amendment and realizing tangible projects towards that goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joseph Meyer.
Not present.
Not present? Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Adam Duskevich.
Hello, my name is Adam Duskevich and I live in the 4th Ward. Last month, I spoke in support of a resolution reaffirming our city's previous commitment to Vision Zero and to cutting vehicle miles traveled in half. And at your last meeting, I spoke at the public hearing pertaining to this budget, asking for you to put our money where our mouth is by funding Vision Zero quick build projects. A few short hours after that meeting, Robert Murray was struck and killed by a driver as he crossed here in his wheelchair. Yet another victim of traffic violence in our city, just a block from where we sit tonight, and 2 blocks from where a driver seriously injured another pedestrian a week earlier. Huron is 5 lanes wide here, a deadly highway through the heart of our city. MDOT apparently feels that this road needs to be able to move cars quickly. Pedestrians are an afterthought. In the aftermath of this traffic violence, I saw it seriously suggested on social media that we should remove crosswalks along Huron, that having crosswalks where people need to cross is dangerous. This implies that it's pedestrians who make our roads dangerous. It's astounding that people can be so callous. I live near West Stadium. Most of my neighborhood's amenities, such as grocery stores, restaurants, and shopping, are along that corridor. As a major multi-lane road, it is very similar to Huron. It is designed to move cars, not as a place to exist outside of a car. There are few safe crossings, so people cross between them, often waiting in the left turn lane for traffic to clear. Pedestrians are an afterthought. As a result, walking is not comfortable, and so the people who can, drive. People drive half a mile to buy a gallon of milk. A few months ago, a woman was killed crossing Plymouth, another wide multi-lane road with few safe crossings. This keeps happening. It's a result of many of you treating Vision Zero as a nice to have, as icing on the cake, something we can do when we have some extra money or can get a grant for it, but not something we're going to treat as more than a symbolic gesture. We can't afford that approach. We can't afford to lose more people to traffic violence, to have more lives ended or forever changed by a preventable crash. Budgets are moral documents. I want to thank Council Members Briggs, Ackman, and Cornell for bringing forward Amendment 2, which calls for shifting $500,000 from Major Streets Fund capital preventative maintenance to a quick build project. I ask that the rest of you support this amendment as a demonstration of your commitment to keeping Ann Arbor's residents and visitors safe as we travel around the city. Furthermore, and this might be a bit morbid, I ask that if I'm killed by a driver while walking home tonight, that my death be politicized. I also support Amendment 1 to fund the Rising Hope for Housing program and Amendment 3 to support eviction prevention. While these allocations are both competing for the same pot of money from the marijuana excise tax rebate, they appear to be complementary, and I hope that both of these essential programs can be funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anuka Moran.
Hello. My name is Anuka Moran, and I live on the north side. I do not own a car, so I bicycle and walk almost everywhere. And every day I wonder if that day will be the day that someone in a car who is moving orders of magnitudes at more mass at great speeds than I am will make a split-second decision or mistake that will end my health, my mobility, my ability to do my job, or even my life. This will be the reality for me and thousands of others every day, as long as the roads that we must take to get to where we're going are designed for the comfort and short-term convenience of drivers over all else. Despite some promising exceptions, like protected bike lanes in a few downtown streets, this is overall the present situation. Cyclists and pedestrians don't just deserve alternate routes that are nominally safer but not efficient and comfortable. We deserve all of those things for which traffic engineers have historically sacrificed our lives to afford to drivers, which is safe, comfortable, efficient, and intuitive routes where every second is not a second of if we will live or die. And although historically people's lives have been sacrificed for the comfort of drivers, moving in the other direction would not require sacrifice. Safe, comfortable, and convenient routes for those outside of cars benefits everyone, including businesses, the environment, children, the elderly, the disabled, and even drivers themselves. So please pursue all options that get us towards this future, and remember, every day counts.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Davies McDermott.
Good evening, Council, and Christopher Taylor. My name is Jan Davies McDermott. I live in the 4th Ward. Currently, I serve as Secretary for the Ann Arbor Economic Development Corporation Board. My purpose here tonight is to brief the Council on the positive activities and the initiatives which the Board has engaged and support the mission of reasonable, sensible, careful, and thoughtfully planned economic development in Ann Arbor. For those who may not know who are here, the charter of the Ann Arbor Economic Development Corporation directs us to assist in the attraction, the relocation, the retention, the expansion of profit and nonprofit-making organizations which provide employment and which are considered desirable and beneficial for our city. We work collaboratively with other ED entities like the City Administrator, the Ann Arbor Economic Development Department, newly formed, and Spark, primarily through its issuance of tax-exempt revenue bonds, which can result in substantial savings in project financing. We've recently formed a Strategic Initiatives Development Committee, the SIDC, working collaboratively with Joe Giant, the new Economic Development Director, to define how we can best support him under the new city economic development structure. Also, the Ann Arbor EDC has formed a separate nonprofit entity, which gives us more flexibility to assist as a partner. We work with a 9-person board of directors. I'm pleased to say that Jen Eyre and Jen Cornell participate on that board, along with small business owners, Spark, banking and finance people, and education and university people. It is a cross-section which makes wise decisions. While our primary statutory purpose is to help lower financing costs by issuing tax-exempt revenue bonds, we have also assisted in the community in other ways. To date, this assistance includes provide referral and ombudsman services, to work cooperatively with the city and other area economic development corporations in our region, and similar entities involving common areas of interest. We encourage programs that attract and retain businesses and employment, and subject to the availability of funding, we provide loans and grants. I personally am part of the Tree Line Trail project, linking the border-to-border trail and the former DTE North Main revitalization.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what?
Thank you.
I think your time is up. The mayor has to tell you.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
I'm sorry. I'm not a little hard of hearing, so I didn't hear some of those beeps.
That's all right.
My application is up for renewal.
Thank you.
And I'm here in order to argue in favor of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Adam Grant.
Hello, council members. I appreciate you for listening to us. I know it can't be easy sometimes. I'm here in support for Rising Hope for Housing. The last meeting I tried to attend virtually, we all know that was a debacle. So I came personally. The last meeting, you got the numbers, so there's been 170 families helped by this. Today, I want you to think about the invisible. People will always talk about the visible. A lot of the work that we do is exactly that, invisible. People with a criminal history are often invisible and not looked at. And the work done by programs such as A Brighter Way and A Rising Hope are also invisible. What is successful is the things that you don't see. And it's kind of hard to be able to make the argument for those things. Some of the people here, please stand up, Brighter Way people. Some of these people here have been invisible in the past, and they're not now because of programs such as this. People stay in their homes and don't commit new crimes. Our trauma-informed approach empowers them so that they don't need other public resources. So there's a multiplier. It's my understanding that there's a proposition to take a possible $116,000 additional dollars that would be allocated for Rising Hope for Housing for eviction diversion. I don't understand the need to separate it. We do eviction diversion. We do eviction diversion for the most vulnerable of us. It's one of the last bastions of racism, xenophobia, and everything else is the housing market. They don't have to let you in if you have a record. I did 27 years. I have an 800 credit score. I'm executive director of an organization, and I have been refused housing recently. So, by helping with this resolution, not necessarily diverting the funds, you create a multiplier approach because this helps people who have a criminal record, this helps people who have a voucher, and then those other resources that are in the community can be used for the other people that we're talking about. To pull it specifically for eviction diversion doesn't have that same multiplier effect. I ask you to think about this last thing. Ann Arbor kind of fashions itself as being a little bit more liberal, and everybody knows what's going on in politics these days. We've seen the political tsunami of policies and funding decisions that leave the most vulnerable behind. Please don't follow this trend by pulling funding for the most vulnerable for the less so. I'm not saying there aren't people in need. This is not the population to pull it from. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jennifer St. John.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jennifer St. John, and I work with A Brighter Way, one of the proud partners in the Rising Hope for Housing program. I'm also a formerly incarcerated individual, and I stand before you not just in this work that I do, but as someone who knows firsthand the deep challenges of reentry after serving 20 years in the carceral system. When I came home, I thought freedom would mean stability. But the truth is, it took me 3 long and exhausting years to secure an apartment. In that time, I stayed in transitional housing on the east side of Detroit, bounced between hotels, paid application fees that I couldn't afford, denied consistently. I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. I've only been out for 4 years, meaning that most of my reentry has been just trying to find a place to call home. That's why Rising Hope matters so deeply to me. In fact, it matters so much. I worked in Lansing today and drove all the way here just to make sure that I was here in person. It's not just a housing program. It's a path to dignity. It allows those incarcerated, those formerly incarcerated, a chance to rest, to rebuild, to raise their children without shame or instability. It creates room for healing, for hope, and for a future that we can shape on our own terms. Housing is the foundation for everything. Employment, mental health, family reunification. Without it, nothing else works. With it, everything becomes possible. I urge you to approve the budget for Rising Hope for Housing, as it's not just an investment in housing, it's an investment in people and families. And it's just equitable community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tina Topalian.
I wonder how they're not ashamed that people have to beg for housing. How are they not ashamed that people are begging for housing?
Tina Topalin, if you're on the phone, can you please raise your hand? Caller with the phone number ending in 107. Press star 6 to raise your hand. Excuse me, press star 9 to raise your hand. You're on the call. Mayor, I don't see this caller online.
Our next speaker is Kitty Kahn.
Caller with the phone number ending in 345.
Hi, this is Kitty Kahn calling from the 5th Ward. I was shocked to see that Council Member Iyer is once again asking taxpayers to shell out big bucks for what amounts to campaign literature. She is asking for another $50,000 for what she calls equitable communications to the community. What a joke. I haven't received a mailer yet, but I've seen those that some of my Ward 1 friends have received, and they are far from informative. They list what the council members view as their accomplishments, and they ask constituents to Google information about the comprehensive land use plan. Instead of these puff pieces, the city should have sent postcards to every resident early in the comprehensive land use plan update process. I object to my tax dollars being used in this way. It's just unseemly. Please do not approve this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jessica Henry.
Oh, the charade.
Mayor, this caller is not online.
Jessica Henry.
Is she not online? She was supposed to be here, but she changed.
She's now online, Mayor.
Oh, good.
Caller with the phone number ending in 488. Press star 6 to unmute your phone. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you. Sorry, this is a little tech challenging.
All good.
My name. Okay, thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 488. Press star 6 to unmute your phone.
You'll want to turn the volume down on your call. Caller 488. Go ahead.
Hello? Okay, thank you so much. So my name is Jessica Henry. I am the development manager at A Brighter Way. I'm here today to speak on the Rising Hope program. Housing is a serious necessity for not only our community members, but also our economy and the livelihood of people thriving, not only for the unhoused, but for formerly incarcerated individuals who have really struggled to even get a second chance in life. So money that goes directly to support them, especially since it's been historically ran the same way. they count on that. Our economy counts on that. Our community counts on that. And when we have broken homes and broken families, our community falls. So just to have a safe place to call home, that allows you to have a safe employment, take care of your family, go to school, live out your dreams in life. So I'm here today to say, please continue the Rising Hope program and give our community members a chance at a thriving life. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alex Lowe.
Evening, this is Alex Lowe from Ward 3. Over 24 people died this weekend, primarily in Kentucky from storms. But these are not blameless deaths. The Trump administration, and Donald Trump as the head of it, are responsible for at least some of these deaths due to the administrative choices they took to damage the National Weather Service. Had the Weather Service been properly staffed, these folks would have had sufficient warning and would likely still be alive. In other words, I believe Donald Trump's negligence killed people in Kentucky this weekend. Tonight I ask you to support Amendment 2 to the city's budget, sponsored by our council's awesome ABC coalition. It's a necessary, but not sufficient, step towards safety in our city. A $0 line item for safety is frankly offensive. The $500,000 proposed in Amendment 2 is not enough, but it is a good start. As far as I'm concerned, a vote against Amendment 2 is a vote to be as culpable for deaths on our streets as Donald Trump is for this weekend's deaths in Kentucky. I also want to thank Council members Ackman, Briggs, and Cornell for joining us outside the City Hall this evening in memory of the 2 people who were killed by drivers in the last 3 weeks within 200 meters of this very room. I hope the other members of City Council will join us in future, as sadly I do not believe that this will be the last time we lose community members due to traffic violence. Safety cannot wait. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Peter Hoke.
Hi, council members. I'm Peter Hauk. I'm on the Transportation Commission, but tonight I'm speaking for myself. I'm also here with a coalition of groups, Walk Bike Washtenaw, Bike Alliance Washtenaw, and the Neighborhood Institute. And then I'm also representing my organization, Crashes in Ann Arbor. We're here to ask you to make 4 changes to our transportation system. Firstly, we need you to approve reconfiguring our streets that are already in our control. We also are asking that you complete the trunk line transfer so that we can decide how our streets are here in Ann Arbor, and we can choose designs that align with our values. Also, we want to deactivate flashing yellow arrows at intersections where controls can't detect that a pedestrian is present. And lastly, we want you to please approve Amendment 2 to fund quick build safety improvements for streets in Ann Arbor like Stadium and to slow traffic there. So thank you, council members Briggs, Cornell, and Ackman for bringing that forth. Remember that I was here in front of you 2 weeks ago asking you to disable flashing yellow arrows after a 68-year-old man was injured at the corner of Huron and Division. Huron and Division, obviously, that's one of the intersections that hasn't yet had its flashing yellow arrow disabled. Later on that same night, Robert Murray was killed at an intersection also on Huron, 2 blocks away. Tonight, we need you to refuse to accept as normal that people get killed or seriously injured while crossing the street. It's not normal. And 2 serious crashes within 1 week of each other, both on the street in front of City Hall. That's just not normal, and we need your help to fix it. Thank you for reaffirming your support for Ann Arbor's Vision Zero goals in April. Now, please take the next step and approve Budget Amendment 2 so that we can make real progress on slowing speeds and improving safety on the streets here in Ann Arbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Griswald.
Good evening. Kathy Griswald, Ward 2. First, I want to talk about what's called the 4th Avenue Street and Transit Improvements. The city was awarded a $200 grant, and the description is, this reconstruction project aims to enhance usability and accessibility on 4th Avenue between William and Liberty Streets. That is a 1-block area. $200,000, no problem. But then you look at the fine print, and this project, which also has a little nickname, FAST. The FAST project is anticipated to cost more than $8 million. $8 million for 1 block. This sort of reinforces that the city loves projects. They don't love ongoing maintenance and evaluation, but projects are cool. I appreciate everyone coming out tonight and reinforcing that we have a major transportation safety problem. No one has said it more often or longer than I have. I want to remind the council members, most of whom weren't here, that in October of 2016, a student was killed crossing the street, a school crosswalk, where the nearest street light was 132 feet away. The neighbors formed a group, A2 Safe Transport. It was a sea of yellow shirts out here, dozens, demanding that we improve the school walk zones, and that was done. Millions of dollars were spent, but we're still having deaths. Why? Well, we don't really follow Vision Zero. We don't do the engineering, we don't do the evaluation, and I just want to give you a few examples of what we could do that would cost almost nothing that we're not doing, and I don't know why. The first one is sightline obstructions, objects as well as vegetation. I was coming home and I saw on Glacier Way that the traffic was all backed up. Why? Because they couldn't see down here on Parkway, because there was a trailer and an excavator in the right turn lane. When I stopped and explained that to them, not that it was my responsibility, but I was afraid someone was going to be killed, and one of the construction workers was actually standing out in the middle of Huron Parkway directing traffic. When I explained this needed to stop, they sheepishly said, well, that's how the city wanted them to configure their job site. This is a major problem. Sightlines, lighting at crosswalks, sidewalks on new developments. We need to be doing a crash analysis. Thanks to Peter Hope, the city needs to follow through. State standards regarding signage. So I think you've got an idea of some things that need to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sam Homan.
Hello, my name is Sam Homan. I live at 1451 Kohler in Ward 4. Tonight I want to draw City Council's attention to a less discussed part of the comprehensive plan, namely the transition district. As I understand it, it was supposed to be a step down from downtown zoning, a step up from residential zoning, and an up zoning along arterial roads. This was going to include places like single-family houses along Stadium and Packard. It was going to be the old Fourth Ward, large apartment buildings like Packard Row that's going up by me, and retail, dentist office, etc. It's very broad use of land or land groupings, but it's semi-coherent. Separately, the plan proposed by the consultants included something called a business flex district, and this would have functionally been our industrial zoning. And it makes sense. One of the primary uses of zoning is to keep industrial and residential uses separate. So this would have been South Industrial, Ann Arbor Research Park, that weird sliver of land between the Detroit-Chicago main line and the freeway on-ramp that is North Main Street. And this would have included things like Mann's Lumber, Gross Electric, the 100 Phoenix Drive building, the old Borders headquarters down there, self-storage facilities, so on and so forth. But what I want to draw your attention to is that the Planning Commission voted last week to abolish the Business Flex District altogether and fold it into the Flex District. So now we have a Flex District, a transition district. So now we have a transition district that covers everything from the old Fourth Ward to massive office buildings, self-storage sites, marijuana grow facilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Planning Commission has been treating the comprehensive land use plan as a housing-only plan, and they are committed to getting housing everywhere, no matter the cost. Particularly concerning to me is that Ann Arbor Research Park and Ann Arbor Industrial Park along South State Street would now become residential. This is not an appropriate place for housing. There are no amenities there. There are no schools, no parks, and the city would need to build a new pedestrian overpass over I-94 to connect those two areas, to do that even remotely responsibly. So I really want to ask the council to direct the Planning Commission to include a non-residential business district for industrial uses within the plan, like you did with the 35-foot limit. It makes sense. Cities need things that are not sightly or pedestrian friendly, like an Ann Arbor bus, like the bus depot, like self-storage. And we need places for businesses to set up. Large plots of land like that are good to set aside for businesses and not be solely dependent on one employer. So cities are more than just housing. They are also places where business gets done and where people work. Suburbs are just for housing. So let's please keep Ann Arbor a city by preserving some industrial zoning within the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maretta McGra.
Good evening. My name is Maretta McGra, and I'm a prospective buyer of one of the towny homes on Sayre Church Road. I came here tonight to ask for your support for expediting the necessary approvals so that the new homes could be built within hopefully a reasonable time frame, 9 to 12 months. So I feel very fortunate and very excited to have been selected through the lottery process to be a home buyer after applying for it. This opportunity to own a home in our city is incredibly important to me and to my family. I have been living in Ann Arbor for the past 20 years. I have been working as a teacher at Ann Arbor Public Schools since 2010. I'm a single parent, and my child goes to Ann Arbor Public Schools. I'm invested in our community, and yet I have been renting for many years now, unable to afford a home. I want to buy a home here, but the increase in prices in the housing market, the increase in the property taxes, and the lower teaching salaries have made it difficult for me to do so. The A2COT Towny Homes project is such a great opportunity to buy a home here at an affordable price. If not for this project, in the current housing market, I'm probably outpriced by at least $100,000 by rough estimate. If, let's say, I would like to purchase a $300,000 home with property taxes, insurance, and all, this would cost me about 65 to 70 or even more of my monthly take-home paycheck. So the lower price that I would pay to purchase the little towny home provides me with the path to a more secure future for me and my daughter. Therefore, please support the completion of the A2COT housing project within a reasonable time frame by expediting all necessary approvals, and please consider my perspective when making decisions about the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mojan Savabiasafani.
Wow. Unbelievable. Hello, everybody. I heard everything you said, and I am appalled that you have to come here and beg this city council for housing. This city council should be ashamed that its teachers cannot afford a home. You ought to have public housing. Public investment in public housing that would house everyone. But you choose over and over again your rich people friends who keep putting you in your seats so you can help them get richer. And Ann Arbor is not stupid. We get it. And the shame is on you. But I'm not here to talk about that today. I am here to say that this city council, as cruel as it is to its own citizens, by not helping them have a f***ing house, they are more cruel to people of Palestine. I have brought resolutions to this body, this despicable, shameful body, for years, asking them to please pass a resolution that says cut off military aid to the apartheid, genocidal state of Israel. And they have done nothing. Their silence supports the genocide in Palestine. I have seen bombed homes. Homes that people have made with their tears and toil. Israel is bombing it to smithereen. Hundreds and thousands are killed every day with your taxes. If you have an ounce of humanity, pass my resolution. Cut off military aid to that barbaric state that's Israel. Do something for your people. Build public housing for mothers who teach in your town and can't have a home. Shame on you. There is nothing I can say to you shameful beasts who will do nothing to save people here and will do nothing to save people in the Middle East. You are shameful. You are barbarians. And I cannot scream harder, or I would be, because a genocide is happening right now in Palestine. Little babies are starving to death, and you sit and stare and laugh at me. You shameful beast. You shameful beast. Children are burning to death. People are trampling each other over scraps that gets in.
Thank you.
Shame on you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Blaine Coleman.
Pass the resolution. Pass the resolution against military aid to Israel. We have been demanding that resolution in this city council for 22 years. This room is filled with people who are really outraged that 12 persons, I believe 12 persons have been injured or killed on Ann Arbor streets in the last year. And you're right. You're right. Well, they should be 1,000 times more outraged, and this city council should be 1,000 times more outraged that your tax dollars are killing and injuring upwards of 200,000 people in Palestine right now, primarily in the Gaza Strip. Upwards of 200,000 people you are injuring and killing with your tax dollars, your U.S. tax dollars, and you are pretending to care about 12 pedestrians who have been injured on the streets of Ann Arbor. You are pretending, that's traffic violence and it must be stopped. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with that. But you're inflicting real violence on upwards of 200,000 Palestinians that you are killing with your tax dollars. President Biden did it. President Trump is doing it. The top leadership of your party, the Democrats, are doing it. The top leadership of the Republican Party is doing it. But the people are against that genocide. Especially your progressive voter base is against that genocide that Israel is committing. against the people of Palestine. And I don't see how you think you're going to keep getting elected and reelected without that progressive voter base. You're going to change, whether you like it or not. Or your progressive voter base is going to throw you out of office face first. How much disdain do you have for your own progressive voter base, who hates this genocide that Israel is committing on the Palestinian people with your tax dollars? Well, here's a clue. Mayor Taylor publicly read a prayer for the state of Israel. He publicly read a prayer for the state of Israel. That's how much disdain the city council has for the Palestinian people. But you will change. Listen to your base. Listen to your base.
We have now exceeded 45 minutes of public comment at the beginning of our meeting. Those who have signed up for public comment who have not yet had the opportunity to speak will have the opportunity to speak in public comment overflow. Are there communications today from council? Councilmember Dish.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So I want to thank everyone who came out for the Ward 1 coffee hour last week. There were a bunch of people in the room. We didn't count, but I think there were about 30 or so. And we had a great chat about the comprehensive land use plan. I'd like to let everyone know that next week is A20 week, or not next week, I'm so sorry. June 1st to June 7th is A20 week. We still have some more of May to enjoy. And it looks to be even more fun than ever. You can learn how to dye clothes, join an e-cargo bike rally, taste delicious food, and attend ward parties. Ward 1's party is June 6th, 5:30 to 7:30 at Leslie Park. There will be a clothing swap. Bring 5 items, take 5 items, or don't take, just bring. I regret that I will be missing out on the fun. I have long been scheduled to be out of town for that day. I wanted to let everyone in this room know that on June 4th at 6 p.m. via Zoom, there will be a citizen participation meeting for 350 South 5th, which many of you think of as the affordable housing project going up on the old Y lot. And I want you to hold tightly to your seats, because the amazing news about this project is that it includes 330 apartments, all of which will be affordable for people with a mix of incomes between 30% and 80% of AMI. So thank you for taxing yourselves to create places for people to live that are in the center of our city and that are walkable and bikeable. I'm grateful. I also want to note, if anyone is a New York Times reader, in the business section, which is not the first thing I look at, there was an amazing story about Argus Farm Stop that made it very clear how lucky and unique how lucky we are to have such a unique place in Ann Arbor, and also talked really about the role that that plays not only in feeding us all well, but in supporting local farmers. And the number of farmers in Washtenaw County has actually increased. So lucky for us, there will always be plenty of delicious food to eat.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Chief Anderson for updating the Ann Arbor, the AAPD traffic stop policy to align with the intent of the Driving Equality Ordinance. His policy statement makes it clear that officers cannot initiate stops based on multiple minor non-safety related equipment violations unless one of the specific exceptions related to criminal activity applies. This clarification reinforces the ordinance purpose and addresses unintentional confusion, leading to consistent enforcement moving forward. And that kind of clarity matters, because for far too long, vague or overly broad enforcement policies have created opportunities for unequal treatment. The ability to use a broken taillight or expired plate tags as a pretext stop has never been applied equally. It has often functioned as a quiet gatekeeping tool, one that sends a message about who's truly welcome and who's being watched. That's why this movement deserves reflection, because the way we enforce laws and the way we selectively protect or punish has always shaped who is allowed to belong. Just a couple of days ago, we marked the anniversaries of two turning points in that ongoing fight. On May 17th, 1954, Brown versus Board declared school segregation unconstitutional. Yesterday marked the 1896 Plessy versus Ferguson decision, which upheld the lie of separate but equal. But in between those two rulings was something even more powerful, a movement. Black Americans used every tool they had, lawsuits, journalism, organizing, not just to challenge unjust systems, but to demand that their citizenship, dignity, and presence be honored in full. They understood that belonging isn't about physical presence or legal status. It's about protection. It's about having your humanity respected in policy, in enforcement, and the everyday decisions made by institutions. These anniversaries remind us that the question of who counts, who is protected, included, and centered is not a settled issue. It shows up in how we write our ordinances, how we interpret them, and how we decide whose safety matters. Belonging requires rejecting the idea that anyone who doesn't fit the ideal is disposable. And every time we choose comfort over justice, ego over repair, we're just standing still in someone else's suffering. We're quietly rewriting who belongs and who doesn't. And when we do that, we're failing.
Councilmember Iyer.
I don't relish following that. Thank you, Councilmember Harrison. I just want to take a moment to talk about an issue that is being widely discussed in our community, the Comprehensive Land Use Plan update. A lot of people are just tuning into it. And so when City Council launched the Land Use Plan update in 2023, we did it with a clear goal: to open up more housing options across the city, including in neighborhoods long designated for single-family zoning only. The status quo isn't working. Not for young people looking for a place they can afford, not for older residents looking to stay in the community and downsize, and not for workers and families who are competing for too few homes. Over the years, I've had countless conversations with my constituents, with residents about this. Many are frustrated when they see expensive Bigfoot homes get built for one family, when instead we could have a duplex or triplex that makes space for more. We're not talking about high rises in neighborhoods. We're talking about reasonable options that respect the fabric of our neighborhoods. Some folks, as I said, are just tuning in now and wondering why this process started out with the assumption that we would remove exclusionary zoning. The answer is simple. That was our policy directive from the beginning. Council passed a resolution in '23 laying out what we wanted the plan to do. It called for more homes and more density in single-family areas, fewer, more flexible zoning categories, land use aligned with our A20 climate goals, and a commitment to repair harm caused by exclusionary policies. That's the work that's underway now. Removing exclusionary zoning is the right thing to do. It's how we begin to undo decades of housing policy that shut people out, especially Black and brown families, and kept neighborhoods exclusive by design. It's also how we build a future where more people can live here, not just those with the most resources. This isn't just an Ann Arbor conversation. All across the country, Democrats are calling for an end to exclusionary zoning. The Biden-Harris administration encouraged it. Elizabeth Warren has introduced legislation to support cities that make this change. AOC even asks candidates seeking her support and endorsement to commit to zoning reform even when it's politically difficult. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, on the other hand, has proposed to save the suburbs by protecting single-family zoning. Project 2025 called on the next Republican administration to do the same. That's the dividing line. Do we make room, or do we keep shutting people out? Here in Ann Arbor, we're choosing to make more room. While removing exclusionary zoning is a clear goal, the details, how it gets played out in different neighborhoods, will come in the next phase when we update the zoning code in 2026. I encourage people to get involved both now with the comp plan and then. Thank you.
Councilmember Ackman.
Thank you, Mayor. It's spring, as my allergies can attest, and I wanted to draw folks' attention to a program that the city has that ends on May 31st to get rebates on electric lawn equipment, such as leaf blowers and lawn mowers. And these are applicable to Ann Arbor residents as well as local landscaping businesses. And it's through partnership with the city, Granger Industrial Supply, and Weingarts. So you can find more details about the equipment that qualifies, the discount amounts, and how to participate. If you look up Ann Arbor gas leaf blower phase out, it's on that page. Second, we announced a couple of meetings ago that the city had to issue a stop work order on our federal Safe Streets for All grant work. And through the budget response process, staff recently informed us that the environmental review that was the holdup for this project has been cleared and that the work will now move forward. So as a reminder, the projects that are going to be funded under this include buffered bike lane protection, intersection safety improvements, and some speed management upgrades on multiple locations across the city, which I'm very glad can now move forward to advance our goals.
Councilmember Cornell.
I would like to take the opportunity to thank Chief Anderson, who was here a little while ago, and Chief Kennedy for a really wonderful open house between the police, shared open house between the police and the fire department this weekend. It was a really incredible community event. It was really fun to see a lot of families out there. I can tell you my family was torn between the fire department's hot dogs and the police department's live dog, Roscoe, and what was more fun, but this is something that I think is really a great way to get our community aware of just everything that both divisions of our public safety department do, how hard they work, and the fine men and women and folks who staff those teams. So thank you very much for your hospitality to both the police department and the fire department. And I wanted to mention quickly that June 1st is your chance to savor the flavor downtown with Taste of Ann Arbor. It's very exciting. It's a very fun event, family friendly. Runs from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. There will be live music all throughout downtown Main Street from 12 to 5 p.m. that day. There are 21 local restaurants that are participating, so all of the restaurants in and around downtown, everything from Washtenaw Dairy to some of your most favorite bars are all going to be represented on the street, showing off what they do best, offering their hospitality back out into the community on the street, activating our downtown. Streets will be closed. It's a really lively event, and I hope that you and your families will join me there.
Councilmember Watson.
I'd like to thank the residents who came out to CM Alex and my coffee hour on May 10th. We really appreciate hearing the feedback. I'd also like to make an announcement on behalf of our Ann Arbor County Commissioners. The county will be hosting an older adults millage listening session on Thursday, June 5th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Ann Arbor Senior Center in Burns Park. Details are still being finalized, but we expect Commissioners Scott, Robbie, and Labar to be in attendance alongside Ward 3 Council members Ghazi, Edwin, and Radina, and Councilmember Radina and myself as Parks liaisons, because the Senior Center is staffed by Parks staffers. We hope to see you there, and please stay tuned for an official announcement from the Board of Commissioners.
Further communication from council. I would like to request confirmation of the following appointments that were presented to council on May 5, 2025. To the Ann Arbor Public Art Commission, John Kotarski. To the Downtown Development Area Resident Consultancy Council, Julian Mays Burnett. To the Housing Commission, Devin Kilpatrick. To the Airport Advisory Committee, E. Melody McNicholas, Frederick M. Hall. To the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority, Michael Alamang. To the Ann Arbor Public Art Commission, Peggy Weir-Leonard. To the Building Board of Appeals, Robert Hart, Hugh Flack, David Arnsdorf. To the Cable Communications Commission, Zachary Damon. To the City Planning Commission, Wanmu Lee, Sarah Hammerschmidt, Ellie Abrams. To the Commission on Disability Issues, Kathleen Mozak, Larry Keeler, and Alex Gossage. To the Downtown Development Authority, Theresa Nichols, Angela Jackson, Elizabeth Berry. To the Elizabeth Dean Fund Committee, Lynn Nibel, Brooks Curtis, Samuel Rosewig. To the Employees Retirement System Board of Trustees, Mark Foster. To the Energy Commission, Mike Berkowitz. To the Historic District Commission, David Rochlin, Catherine Fortner. To the Housing Board of Appeals, Jerry Schulte, Tim Derman. To the Human Rights Commission, Linda Winkler, Hannah Lane, Keita Cowan. To the Huron River Watershed Council, Richard Norton. To the Parks Advisory Commission, Tisha Macanyo. To the Recreation Advisory Committee, Hannah Carey. To the Renters Commission, Chris Bodie, Rosanita Ratcliffe, Kimberly Pitts. To the Transportation Commission, Wanlu Lee, Brett Hautamaki. To the Zoning Board of Appeals, Patricia Lakowski, Todd Grant. May I have a motion, please, to approve these appointments? Moved by Councilmember Redina, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? The appointments are approved. We now come to our consent agenda. May I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of the consent agenda. All in favor? All opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We now come to our one public hearing. Public hearings are opportunities for members of the public to speak to council and the community about the specific subject matter of the public hearing. To speak at a public hearing, one need not have signed up in advance, but your speech must relate to the specific subject matter of the public hearing. That is to say, the specific item on the agenda to which the public hearing relates. Speakers in all instances, both here and online, will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Public hearing number 1, resolution to approve the 1155 Arlington Boulevard annexation, 0.9 acres, 1155 Arlington Boulevard. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, I do not see any callers online for the hearing.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. We have before us the regular session meeting minutes of May 5, 2025. May I motion please to approve these minutes? Moved by Councilmember Watson, seconded by Councilmember Redina. Discussion of the minutes. All in favor? All opposed? The minutes are approved. C1, ordinance to amend section 5.29.9.b of chapter 55, Unified Development Code of Title 5 of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Ozzie Edmonds, second by Councilmember Watson. Discussion, please, of C1. Councilmember Dish.
So this ordinance amendment is in front of us because of the December 2023 report entitled A New Approach to Economic Development. That approach, or that report, advised council on how the city could become more effective at economic development and more efficient at pursuing it in alignment with values such as sustainability and housing affordability. So that report translated into several resolutions that city staff have been working hard to implement since we passed them on April 1st, 2024. The ordinance amendment before us tonight supports housing affordability by eliminating land division notifications, public notifications. Now, I want to make it clear that this is not a rollback of an opportunity to provide meaningful feedback. The city is required under state law to approve land divisions, so there is no discretion for the City Planning Commission nor for the council. So because there is no discretion, these notifications serve no real purpose in the approval process, and they may cause frustration when people receive a notice, show up for a meeting, speak, on an item when neither CPC nor council has any discretion. So that's what we're voting on, not a rollback of community comment or influence, but a completely understandable streamlining of the development process. So I hope people will join me in supporting it.
Further discussion? Councilmember Ackman.
I'm sorry that I did not submit this question in advance, so I'm hoping that staff or Councilmember Dish could easily answer. So it seems like the only purpose that this would serve is awareness. How would people become aware of this in the absence of this ordinance section?
I believe that on-site signage is proposed for any kind of development project, regardless whether there's a public hearing or public comment period attached to it or not. But I understand that some of those details are being worked out by staff. And I'm good. I see Ms. DeLeo coming on to clarify.
Thank you. Before I was promoted, I understood that the question was how would people become aware of land divisions? There would be no notification sent out by the city. They would have to pay attention to what their neighbors are doing, or they would have to be on top of applications that come into the city. The state Land Division Act is pretty clear. It allows parcels of a certain size to be made, they call it a parent parcel, and you can make up to 4 child parcels in a 10-year period. And you can do this outside of the platting or subdivision act. In this case, state law treats large rural townships and cities the same and gives the same land division rights to each. And it says very clearly that land divisions shall be approved if they meet the city's zoning and the city's access requirements. And for this reason, it is simply an administrative process. Submit your paperwork, submit your surveys, and it is approved. The city, we no longer do public hearings. We no longer send them to planning commission, and there is no notification that we do for this administrative function.
Thank you.
All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DC1, resolution to appoint Roseanne Bloomer, Kate Laramie, Deaver Armstrong to the Greenbelt Advisory Commission. Moved by Councilmember Malik, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DC1. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved with 11 council members present, all voting in the affirmative, thus satisfying the 7-vote requirement. DC2, resolution to reappoint Stephen Brown to the Environmental Commission. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion, please, of DC2. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DC3, resolution to reappoint Erica Liu and Randy Milgram to the Independent Community Police Oversight Commission. Moved by Councilmember Harrison, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion, please, of DC3. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DC4, resolution to reappoint non-registered electors to the Ann Arbor boards and commissions. Moved by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, second by Councilmember Radina. Discussion, please, of DC4. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved with 11 council members present, thus satisfying the 7-vote requirement. DC5, resolution to appoint Sarah Fuller to the Ann Arbor Public Art Commission as a non-registered elector. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Ackman. Discussion, please, of DC5. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved with 11 council members present, thus satisfying the 7-vote requirement. DC6, resolution to allocate funds for substance use disorder treatment and intervention programs. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DC6. Councilmember Cornell.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Councilmember Briggs, Ghazi Edwin, Councilmember Watson, and Councilmember Harrison for co-sponsoring this resolution. We know that substance use disorder is a significant health problem, public health issue. It affects not only our families, our communities, our schools, our workforce. It has a tremendous impact on the health and well-being of our neighbors. By allocating funding for substance use disorder treatment and prevention, we can get ahead of this problem in some ways, and when we cannot, we are able to offer treatment to those not only who can afford it, but those who might not be comfortable asking for it in part of larger problems and more complex issues that they face in their lives. This to me feels like not only a no-brainer, but something that is completely compassionate and within our communities addresses significant issues that have as I mentioned, impact on everything from economic development issues to our tax dollars as it relates to public services, public safety, responding to these calls. We know that an ounce of prevention goes a long way in general, and in this regard, I feel as though it's really important for us to address this issue and a lot of other issues that relate and correlate to it. So I'm hoping that my colleagues here will join me and be supportive of this resolution. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Adina.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that I've spoken about this before, in particular when we saw some of these cuts come down from the federal level, and so I'm incredibly grateful to see funding directed in this way to support substance use disorder treatment and intervention programs here in Ann Arbor. I do have, I think, one, maybe two questions, just around the intent of where this is going. I think that's quite clear in the resolution, but wanting to make sure in our oversight of this, this is perhaps a question for Mr. Dohoney. I know that Community Mental Health Partnership of Southeast Michigan is a 4-county program, and this is intended for Ann Arbor-based substance use disorder treatment and intervention programs. I believe the language through support of local substance use service providers to respond to federal funding cuts is sufficiently clear to ensure that this money will largely be passed through to our local service providers, but want to make sure that the city is going to ensure that that takes place with these dollars.
Yes, Councilmember Radina, we will be attentive to that and also make it explicit in any agreement that we enter into.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DC 7, resolution to allocate funds for expanding food access and supporting local food distribution. Moved by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DC 7. Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
Thank you, Mayor. I would firstly like to thank Council Members Watson, Cornell, Harrison, and Briggs for your support in this resolution. So, over the past several weeks, my colleagues and I have had the privilege of speaking with leaders from the largest food aid provider in our county, Food Gatherers, which serves as the underlying food provider to all food pantries. We also have spoken to some of our organizations that also distribute that food, including Community Action Network, specifically about the very real impact of federal funding reductions and how it's impacting people on the ground. We learned that Food Gatherers recently lost access to 15% of the food it previously received from the U.S. Department of Agriculture due to abrupt federal cuts. This is a direct hit to our local safety net. The cuts affect a critical supply of high-quality protein, produce, and dairy items, and translate to an estimated loss of 1.2 million meals for Washtenaw County residents. This is in the midst of potential deep cuts to federal SNAP benefits, which, if it passes, would create a humanitarian crisis in our country. The value of this lost food is approximately $2.5 million, a staggering shortfall that Food Gatherers is now trying to fill using emergency reserves. The These cuts come at a time of record-breaking food need in our county. In 2024 alone, food gatherers distributed 9.9 million pounds of food, reaching 60,000 individuals, an 8.5% increase from the previous year. Also alarmingly, 20% of those served by our food pantries visit 13 times a year or more. It's a clear sign of persistent chronic food insecurity. Our county also happens to be experiencing one of the fastest rising rates of homelessness in our history, with specific effects to older adults. These challenges weren't created overnight, and they won't be solved by one action, but they do call us to act locally when federal support falls short. That's why I'm proud to sponsor tonight's resolution alongside my colleagues, allocating $300,000 from the general fund to expand food distribution, bolster the capacity of local food pantries, and support food gatherers' mobile and other food programs. I'm hoping the rest of my colleagues will join me tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Malik.
I clearly don't have to speak on the importance of food gatherers and the services they provide or the needs they face in these times. My colleague, Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, covered it quite well. Food gatherers' reputation precedes them, and the need is great. However, I believe I have what is perhaps a unique perspective when it comes to this resolution tonight that I'd like to highlight. When we think about food distribution programs helping those in need, we don't usually think about where that food comes from. Many of the federal USDA funds for food purchases that were canceled this year, prompting this resolution tonight, included programs such as the Local Food Purchase Agreement and the Emergency Food Assistance Program. These programs had stipulations that much of the food purchased for distribution using the funds had to be purchased locally. My day job allows me to see the tremendous boost these funds provided for our producers and farmers across Michigan. In addition to strengthening our local food security safety net through the wonderful work of groups like Food Gatherers, these funds also strengthened our local food production system. That's to say, our neighbors, farmers, both rural and urban. A strong local food system helps all of us and makes all of us healthier. I bring all of this up tonight to highlight that funds provided to a group like Food Gatherers can pay many positive dividends, both immediately and into the future, and I'm proud to be voting in favor of this resolution tonight.
Councilmember Watson.
I just want to obviously thank my co-sponsors and also thank the director of Food Gatherers, Eileen Spring. Every year she hosts, and Food Gatherers hosts an event called The State of Our Plate, where they intentionally invite in policymakers and just interested community members to learn exactly what Food Gatherers does and generally how things are going for the food insecure. And I've gotten a chance to attend that event, and I mean, that's where I learned that, Food Gatherers is the underlying provider for every food bank in the county, and that includes food banks at Community Action Network sites. Some of those are right at our Housing Commission communities, and also for the private organizations, nonprofits like St. Andrew's Church, which I myself am a part of. But I think the fact that they are willing to share with the community exactly where these resources go, where the need is, and we also know that the people that use our food banks are disproportionately community members of color, and we know that no matter how income challenged individuals may be, they still need to eat, and they still need this network of food banks to help them. So I'm just grateful that Food Gatherers was just honest with us about the need, and I'm grateful that the city can provide.
Councilmember Adina.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to once again thank the sponsors for working on this important issue, and would ask to be added as a co-sponsor, please. And if it is not too late, to be added as a co-sponsor to DC 6. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It's approved. DC 8, resolution to allocate funds for shelter diversion, eviction prevention, and programming in under-resourced communities. Moved by Councilmember Watson, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DC 8. Councilmember Watson.
So I was proud to work on this resolution. I think the most important clause is the last whereas clause. Whereas the depth of need among providers of housing, homelessness, and low-income services due to threats to HUD and FEMA budgets, alongside other federal grant cancellations, means that available city fiscal year 25 funds will not be able to fill all gaps at all organizations. The federal administration is creating a drastic change in the landscape for our safety net service providers. Faced with this change and further uncertainty, my co-sponsors and I have had a tall order to decide how best to allocate this money. We had conversations with the Washtenaw Housing Alliance, Jennifer Hall at the Housing Commission, and service providers. We decided to focus on programs that were immediately affected by the cancellation of federal grants, programs that wouldn't happen without city funding, and programs for those feeling the impacts of inflation, tariffs, and all sorts of economic shocks. The first program we heard about that faces an immediate funding gap is the Shelter Diversion Program, which is a collaborative effort between the Shelter Association of Washtenaw County and SOS Community Services. The goal of this program is to prevent homelessness by funding case management services and/or paying any necessary bills that help people avoid a shelter stay. For example, a social worker can help mediate between an individual and their family, or they can guarantee that the person will have access to treatment or programming during the day if they can just get a bed at night. This program has been very successful, but it faces an $140,000 gap compared to last year from MISHDA, the state housing agency that receives pass-through HUD dollars. I've spoken to Dan Kelly at the Shelter Association, and he believes this money will be able to help at least 100 households. The current federal administration has cut funding for AmeriCorps, which provided volunteer staff to a number of Ann Arbor nonprofits. Community Action Network has been hit hard by this cancellation, losing approximately $130,000 worth of staff labor and a $45,000 cash grant. CAN's director Derek Miller has let council know that this grant of $100,000 will enable CAN to continue its summer programming for youth at its community centers, like the ones at Green Braxter and in the Bryant neighborhood. We know that the price of groceries and day-to-day items can have a huge effect on individuals and families. Once people are evicted, we know that the amount of resources and interventions necessary to return them to housing is far greater than simply keeping people housed in the first place. One sign that eviction prevents homelessness is that the biggest spike in family homelessness was when the COVID era eviction moratorium was lifted. We know from the city's eviction prevention data that the most likely cause for individuals and families to need funds is an unexpected expense. When city eviction prevention funds are able to help households weather a change in expenses, paying off a utility bill or a month of past due rent, they are able to maintain their housing once their incomes or life events stabilize. Based on past trends, we expect these eviction prevention funds to help about 95 households avoid eviction.
Further discussion? Councilmember Cornell.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Watson. That was really eloquently put. I just wanted to really quickly thank the people and organizations who helped inform DC 6, 7, and 8. There was a significant amount of input. When I was in PR, I told people to never list names, but I'm going to do it really quickly, and I know I'll leave somebody out. But Dawn Farms, Avalon, SOS, the Shelter Association, the Ann Arbor Housing Commission, Delanis, Community Mental Health Partnerships. This was a significant group effort with community leaders, with people who are actually working to provide these critical services within Ann Arbor. And the fact that they took the amount of time that they did to speak with us about their needs, to be quite candid in where their challenges are, and to let us go back and forth and figure out the best way to help meet those needs was incredibly helpful. And I'm deeply appreciative of their time, and I know that my co-sponsors are as well, but I just wanted to say thank you, because good work like this at the council table happens when not only council members go out in the community and ask, how can we help you, but we have willing partners within the community who are transparent about where their needs are and where we can have the biggest impact. And those conversations were really, really thoughtful. So I appreciate their time.
Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to echo those thanks that Councilmember Cornell just gave to our service providers. and also to some council members, Councilmember Watson and Gazi Edwin and Cornell, who have really dug in deeply to these issues. The federal cuts that we're seeing are unconscionable and immoral, and it's impossible for us to plug the hole here locally with the limited funding that we have. And there are too many needs and too many important priorities that we really want to be able to fund at a higher level. The funding needs for food gatherers, for example, is it's $2.5 million. We're not able to meet that need, but I'm glad through this series of resolutions that we are doing what we can to be able to advance and fill some of the need in our own community. I just wanted to speak a little bit further to a few of the facts around some of the cuts to that HUD that the White House is calling for. They've essentially called federal rental assistance dysfunctional. They've proposed basically ending Section 8 and other housing voucher programs. They've called for cutting rental aid by about 40%. Talking about imposing a 2-year cap on rental assistance for able-bodied adults. We're seeing this coming at a time when nearly half of all renters are considered cost-burdened and homelessness is at a record high. We've seen our own, as Councilmember Gazi Edwin said earlier, we're seeing an increase here locally. The funding that we can put towards eviction prevention here in our community is essential to be able to try to, at a time when we know we're going to see an increase in homelessness, to try to keep people in housing. We cannot rebuild affordable housing fast enough. The best thing that we can do is try to keep folks in their homes and give them dignity at a time when they're struggling and when so many safety nets are being pulled away from the most vulnerable in our community. So I'm happy to vote for these tonight, but not happy that I have to.
Further discussion? Councilor Dish?
I would just like to be added to DC 8, please, and I'm very grateful to the sponsors for all the work they did with all these excellent organizations in all 3 of these resolutions.
Councilmember Radina?
I too would like to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DC 9, resolution directing the city administrator to explore a replacement records management system for the city of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Harrison, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion, please, of DC 9. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. Currently, the city of Ann Arbor, we are using a regional record system by the name of Clemis. That simply was not built with our city's values or vision in mind. It limits how we collect and analyze data, how we evaluate programs, and how we uphold transparency. That's a serious issue when we're trying to implement local reforms like unarmed crisis response and community-centered safety. If we can't customize the data we collect and we can't measure what matters or improve what needs changing, changing. And if we don't control the data fully, we can't protect it or build public trust. That's why this resolution calls for exploring a replacement records management system, one that aligns with Ann Arbor's goals around privacy, innovation, and community-centered safety. It's an investment in public trust, accountability, and the long-term infrastructure needed to support our evolving approach to public safety. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Watson.
I want to thank Councilmember Harrison for keeping the focus on this because, I think this goes back to, 2023 and some of the data we got around secondary stops, and we noticed there's like a big problem with how those are recorded within Clemis. And it's a tall task too because most of Southeast Michigan, if not all of Southeast Michigan, uses this. And so we really do need to kind of keep the focus on getting a new alternative. I mean, the cliche is, if what you're not measuring, you're not fixing. If you can't measure the problem, you can't fix the problem. And this is a crucial step in helping our department have better information and, in the long run, I think, better outcomes.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DB1, resolution to approve the 1155 Arlington Boulevard annexation, 0.9 acres, 1155 Arlington Boulevard. Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Adina. Discussion, please, at DB1. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DS2, resolution to accept a sanitary sewer easement at 1400 South Maple Road from Midtown Ann Arbor LLC, moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion, please, of DS2. All in favor? Opposed? It's approved. DS3, resolution to accept a water main easement at, I'm sorry, thank you. The matter is approved with 10 council members present, all voting the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. DS3, resolution to accept a water main easement at 1400 South Maple Road from Midtown Ann Arbor LLC, moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DS3. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved with 11 council members present, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. All voting in the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. DS4, resolution to approve fiscal year 2026 fee adjustments for the Ann Arbor Fire Department, moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Malik. Discussion, please, of DS4. All in favor? Was that a question? Councilmember Ackman.
I just wanted to note quickly, and I think this applies to several of the fee adjustments on our list, we don't always raise fees. Sometimes we lower the fees. And I guess I just wanted to speak to my appreciation of staff for constantly evaluating that we're just basically doing cost recovery. So that's the case here, and it's the case a couple more from now. So thanks.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DS5, resolution to approve fiscal year 2026 fee adjustments for the Ann Arbor Police Department, moved by Councilmember Radina, seconded by Councilmember Cornell. Discussion, please, of DS5. All in favor? Opposed? It's approved. DS6, resolution to approve fiscal year 2026 fee adjustments for the Public Services Area, Engineering, Systems Planning, Public Works, Water Treatment Units, and the Fleet and Facilities Airport Unit of the City Administrator's Office. Moved by Councilmember Gaziedou and seconded by Councilmember Radina. Discussion, please, DS6. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DS7, resolution to approve fiscal year 2026 fee adjustments for the Community Services Area, moved by Councilmember Malik, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DS7. All in favor? Opposed? DS7 is approved. DS8, resolution to adopt the Ann Arbor City budget and related property tax millage rates for fiscal year 2026, moved by Councilmember Radina, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DS8. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. There are people who question how many Ann Arborites are being served by the Rising Hope for Housing program. So let's talk about why that kind of thinking causes harm. Let's be honest, for decades, harm was inflicted through discriminatory enforcement.
Councilmember, can I just ask you quickly, if you're talking about an amendment to move an amendment?
I'm sorry. Wait, what are we doing?
You want to move Amendment 1?
Yes, I would like to move Amendment 1.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Dish. Councilmember Harrison, you still have the floor.
All right.
All right, thank you. It's moved and seconded. It's all you.
Let's be honest, for decades, harm was inflicted through discriminatory enforcement right here in Ann Arbor. Black, brown, and white low-income residents were searched for the scent of marijuana, pulled over for pretext stops, targeted for poverty, for disability, for being in the wrong part of town, while not appearing as an upper middle-class white person. Meanwhile, others were lighting up in public at Hash Bash in broad daylight and walking away untouched. They weren't arrested, they weren't booked, they weren't incarcerated, they weren't stigmatized. That same demographic now owns dispensaries in the city. And out of all the dispensaries in the city of Ann Arbor, only one is black owned. We cannot pretend that the damage happened somewhere else. It happened here. That's why the 2021 resolution, co-sponsored possibly by individuals sitting at this very table, stated clearly the marijuana excise tax should be used to repair harm, to fund justice. Rising Hope for Housing serves people directly impacted by that harm, people who are locked out of housing, trapped by criminal records, unable to access federal resources, and made to feel like this city no longer had a place for them as residents, as workers, as visitors. This is true deflection. It steps in before the eviction notice, before the court data, before someone is re-traumatized by systems that already failed them. It doesn't wait for irreversible crisis. It moves early because justice delayed is too often justice denied. It's stabilization. It's support for people who were told explicitly and implicitly that they didn't belong in Ann Arbor. And yet here we are in 2025 entertaining the idea that maybe some of that money should go elsewhere. So let's be honest about this. We invoke vulnerable populations, black people, low-income residents, workers as justified for zoning reform, density changes, and development incentives. But then the policies passed end up serving the middle and upper middle class, and the people we talked about, they're left behind. If we can use the idea of harm to justify policy, we better be willing to use real resources to repair it. Because if we only evoke equity when we need a talking point for development or to look progressive, then we're not serious and people will notice. If we can't spend marijuana excise tax dollars on the people most harmed by marijuana enforcement, then let's stop pretending this was ever about equity. The vote on...
Councilmember?
Yes. All right, I'll say... All right.
Thank you. Further discussion of Amendment 1?
What? I have, okay, so basically I had a couple more sentences. This vote will tell the public exactly who we are, not who we say we are, who we are when money's on the table. Really, I, as the sole sponsor, the only sponsor of this budget amendment, asking that we, I could say fully fund Rising Hope for Housing, fund it as much as we possibly can, or be honest enough to say that equity was never the goal. I also want to, thank everybody in this room that came and, were vulnerable to come in front of us and tell their stories. It's hard to do that just for fear of not being understood or fear of judgment. I do also want to thank actually all the organizations I think Councilmember Cornell named. I spoke with all of them as well. There's roughly, I don't know how many partners there's 6 partners that developed the infrastructure for Rising Hope for Housing, an additional 8 to 12 that collaborate with Rising Hope for Housing. So thank you for, reaching out to us via email. Thank you for the time you've spent reaching out to me and meeting with me at 12 o'clock during my lunch break or after hours. And again, thank you all for all that you do and for being vulnerable to tell your stories.
Further discussion? Councilmember Ackman.
Thank you. I appreciate everything that Councilmember Harrison just said, and certainly am very proud and glad that this body has funded Rising Hope before, and I support continuing to fund them. I guess, but as I understand, the previous resolution set out to spend these funds, I think it covered a number of things: emergency services, including mental health and substance use disorder, programs for substance abuse intervention, treatment and recovery support services, education and enrichment programs for at-risk youth, and innovative grants promoting criminal justice reform, as Councilmember Harrison was speaking to. And as I recall, in the prior 2 years that I've been involved in this budget cycle, we have dedicated some of the marijuana excise tax to things like eviction prevention, and as I recall, some of the things that I think that the city administrator set money aside for. So I guess I would just say that my understanding of that previously passed resolution was that it was a little bit more broad to talk about supporting the things I just listed, so I don't need to repeat them. And maybe I've misunderstood, but that's how I've understood it.
Councilmember Watson.
I'd like to propose an amendment to this amendment 1. I'm going to pass it to the clerk. And hopefully she can forward it to the body. So in between the amendments being submitted and tonight, we heard that the Home of New Vision, well, actually, I gotta wait till you guys see. I have to forward it. Sorry. All right, so.
Why don't you, perhaps you read the amendment, we'll get a second, and then you can speak to it as it's being distributed.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move to amend the amount in the resolve clause from 500,000 to from 616,000 to 565,000.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Dish. Councilmember Watson, you still have the floor.
So in between the submission of the budget amendments and this meeting, we heard that 85,000 of the marijuana excise tax money that was being allocated in the administrator's budget would no longer be able to go to Home of New Vision because they anticipate with cuts to Medicaid funding that they won't be able to use the money, and their organization is in peril, honestly. So that means there is now a total of 701,000 in marijuana excise tax funds, up from 616. So my amendment proposes to split this amount on a proportional basis. So the proportion would be 500,000 to 616, and then eviction prevention of 116,000 to 616. Splitting that proportionally, it's weird numbers, but if you round out the numbers, it's 565,000 to eviction prevention, and that would free up then 136,000 to go to 565,000 to Rising Hope and 136,000 to go to the eviction prevention program. This isn't a statement about Rising Hope. It's a statement about the city being able to continue funding eviction prevention at an average level that they were able to do the past few years. In fiscal year 23, we supported eviction prevention at 300,000. In fiscal year 24, we supported it at 250,000. In fiscal year 25, we supported it at 250,000 as well. When you sum this money with the Trump funds, it would be a total funding for eviction prevention at 292,000.
Further discussion of the amendment? Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you. I think I just have a little bit more to say. Okay. Just to further the discussion I was having a little bit earlier, not everyone was criminalized for marijuana. Not everyone was pulled over, booked, or blocked from housing. Not everyone was excluded from federal aid because of a record that started with a pretext stop, some right here in the city. So when we say we want to help everyone, but erase the specific people this money, I personally think, should be meant for, to repair harm, we're not being equitable. I'll leave it there. Rising Hope recognizes that criminalization punished poverty, mental illness, survival, and yes, race. But what we're calling everyone now is often code for those who were never harmed in the first place. This is not about denying help to others. It's the point that there's other funding opportunities and grants. This is about finally keeping a promise to the people this city helped push to the margins, both inside and outside of Ann Arbor. And honestly, has never fully welcomed back. And to say we're fine keeping $500,000 for Rising Hope for housing, just not more than that. Although that's not what you're saying. No. This is that somebody said that to me. Okay, so I'm referencing that. That's like saying we're going to support survival, but not justice. This isn't generosity, it's an obligation. This is about whether the people most harmed always have to fight for scraps, even for funds that were meant for them. If we can't spend marijuana tax dollars on the people harmed by marijuana enforcement, then let's stop pretending this was ever about equity. Universal language without targeted repair isn't progress. It's status quo preservation with a better tagline. And if equity only matters until someone else wants the money, then it never mattered at all.
Further discussion? Councilmember Briggs.
Thank you, and I appreciate the passion by which you speak, Councilmember Harrison, and fully support the Rising Hope for Housing program. I think we've heard over and over again the stories have been shared, and really they're powerful stories, and I appreciate people being willing to come and speak to be vulnerable, and I'm glad to see that we've been supporting this program and also able to increase the funding as it turns out this year. But if this amendment passes, but I think it's important to remember who our eviction prevention funding serves. Just reading from the report that we pulled up from the first year of doing eviction prevention, and in 2023, these 70% of the recipients of our eviction prevention were actually over 70% were non-white. 75% were female, 70% were households with children. This is important work that we're doing in our community. It has served real families in our city, and we know that the need is increasing. I wish that we had more funding to be able to do all of the work that we want to do. I wish we could put more funding towards all of the important projects and programs. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out, how we split these funds. I think we're all committed to this work. And again, this is another one that I wish we didn't have to put any funding towards, because I wish these were problems that did not exist.
Further discussion? Councilmember Cornell.
thank you to my colleagues for all of the really thoughtful comments here tonight. I think one thing I'm really struggling with is, as a body, we found out at 4 p.m. that we had additional money available due to the unfortunate incident with one of our service providers shuttering, and that money hasn't, in my mind, that $85,000 hasn't been carefully considered. And I do think that we haven't, when we look at those who are impacted by funding cuts, and when we look at those who are impacted by just lack of resources, it feels like in our initial disbursement of this money, we really carefully considered youth services. It was something that came up repeatedly, talking to our housing commission as a critical area where there wasn't a lot of attention, there wasn't a lot of funding, and it could make a tremendous impact. And just as an example, we know that the Check and Connect program through the Ann Arbor Public Schools, which takes $60,000 to fund for a year, will not continue if it does not receive funding again. This is an evidence-based mentorship program for students who have displayed discipline issues. It supports students staying in school. These are in-school programs identified by counselors and others, teachers within the program. It's in the last year helped 29 students stay in school, which we know has a material impact on their future success. So while I am obviously supportive of what these resolutions we're discussing are going to fund, I wish that we would have more time to consider if there are other uses for that $85,000 that might impact positively those who are adjacent to these communities and within our community make a big difference.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
Thank you, Mayor, and I also want to thank, the comments at this table, especially from Councilmember Harrison, in regards to the Rising Hope for Housing program. I guess I want to make it clear that no one at this table is supporting taking money away from Rising Hope for Housing. We know that it's a wildly successful program, and we really thank all of you guys for coming here today. What is the issue is that last year, in addition to the $500,000 for Rising Hope for Housing, we also gave money to eviction prevention and to organizations serving our youth. And from talking to leaders of those organizations, the majority of the money that was used primarily served Black and brown constituents, people impacted by the criminal legal system. If we move to give all of the money this year to Rising Hope for Housing, and granted, I understand there'll always be more need than we can provide for, those organizations will lose money. Some of those youth will lose services. So I would just want to make it clear what exactly we're talking about. And those are, programs that many depend on. And I guess I want to ask, I guess I would yield my time to whatever council member wants to answer this. If that money, if all the marijuana excise tax money, this year is maybe being, essentially, why during last year's budget process did we give $250,000 to youth and other money to evictions if that money shouldn't have gone to them? I believe that it was in alignment with Rising, or for the purposes of the marijuana excise tax resolution that we passed. So, I would love if one of my colleagues could help to answer that for me, because I'm confused.
Further discussion? Councilmember Harrison.
I don't know if that was a question.
You can just, I'm counting this as one of your speaking times on the amendment.
Right.
If that's,
on the amendment.
Thank you, on the amendment to the amendment.
Correct. I don't have much to say.
Although you,
if you're asking if I suggested that funding shouldn't have gone to the sources that you referenced, let me clarify right here on the record, that is not what I'm saying. So it's almost sounded like a question for me, since I'm the one that's speaking about giving an increase over last year to Rising Hope for Housing. we gave initially 400. Last year we increased it by 100. My goal, I wanted, when I had discussions with one of my peers, to increase it to an additional 100. So that's really what I was focused on, and I rounded up to the 116 because I didn't know there was anything competing with it. So that's where the 616 came from, was because I was trying to increase it based on the conversations I've had with Washtenaw Housing Alliance, Amanda Carlisle, Dan Kelly, Adam Grant, and discussions about inflation and the rising cost of housing. So to clarify, that was why I asked for the increase, just like I did last year. It didn't have anything to do with, youth services, or, it didn't have anything to do with me thinking that what we gave it to last year, that they shouldn't have received it. I'm focused solely on a program that's got the infrastructure created and that works amongst, what is it? How many organizations? Upwards of 20, close to 20 organizations, and has been successful. So that's all that I was communicating, to be clear.
Further discussion? Yes, Councilmember Gaziadwan.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, it's not that I was insinuating that, money this year is being proposed for any reason that's not in accordance. But I mean, questions for the body in general. That I think it is very important that we remember that we are taking money away from people who are also in need. And I completely understand Rising Hope for Housing. There's going to be more need that we can fund. I also agree that, with finding out that there's additional money available, $85,000 at 4 p.m., I would like us to have more time to have a conversation about what is in best alignment with our marijuana excise tax resolution that we passed in regards to the purpose of that money. I would like more time.
I believe, Councilmember, you've spoken twice on this point.
I didn't know if I have, but I didn't know. I thought I had 2 minutes.
You have 2 minutes at your speaking time. If you chose to speak for, let's say, a minute, that you don't get a third speaking time. Your minute is, you have the floor twice.
You got it.
3 minutes, 2 minutes. I'm going to step in for my own part and say I'm going to support the amendment as provided. I'm incredibly grateful for the work that Rising Hope provides. We, in the past, have sourced $400,000 to them. That was increased to $500,000 last year. We are in the midst of a service and need crisis. Competition for scarce city dollars is extremely high and increasing in our community. Nevertheless, it is at the very least proposed to maintain funding, but here in the context of the proposed amendment to the amendment, to nevertheless continue to increase funding to Rising Hope for by approximately 10%, and I think that's I'm behind that. I appreciate the concern of late-breaking news. At the same time, I think that the program has value and am interested in seeing its funding increased as best we can, while at the same time leaving headroom for the body to later conclude that we provide other eviction prevention services of the sort that Councilmember Briggs identified, which, to my understanding, would be met by the funding identified in Amendment 3. This is all to say, I think that given the amounts that we gave last cycle were consistent with the resolution, with the intent of our resolution, the amounts that we're giving in this cycle, I think, continue to be so as well. We got Councilmember Dish, then I don't know who else. Councilmember Dish.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So I would very much like to thank Councilmember Harrison for affirming the values that I think everyone at this table shares, as evidenced by our willingness over time to not only fund but increase funding for Rising Hope for Housing. I really appreciate Councilmember Ghazi Edwin for being so clear that the effort here is not to take money away from Rising Hope for Housing. And I understand why you asked the question that you asked. It made sense to me. And I share your perception that all of the things that we have funded historically have fit in the mission that we at one time said we would have for the, I don't know, I guess I was on that, although I'm not sure, for the marijuana money. I think the clarification that I would like to make is just to make it perfectly clear that we took a cut in the amount of marijuana money that we have had available in the past. That some of it was used by the city administrator, which is totally fine because that is his job, to make sure that we continued supporting programs that were working and that we had given support in the past. And so we have almost $400,000 less. So to provide an increase to one organization is a big show of support for that organization. To continue to fund at the completely inadequate, but thank God we can do it, eviction prevention at around $300,000 is a blessing. I am really also not thrilled not to be able to continue to support the Check-in and Connect program because I know that it's successful. And I think it serves people who are very much in need, and it leverages our relationship with AAPS to do that, which I also think is really important. But the fact is that we have less, and we were very lucky to have had the foresight to realize that the current federal administration might be a complete disaster for social safety services. So we did get $1 million there to spend, but that money is not replacing funds that we had. That money was to deal with what we knew would be catastrophic new circumstances, and those new circumstances are presenting catastrophes that are far greater than $1 million. So I don't think that the allocation of that money affects how we think about the marijuana money. I think the reality is that we have to make a cut. I'm sorry that things are cut, and I think that it is a strong show of support for Rising Hope to provide an increase under circumstances where we have taken a cut. So I will support this amendment.
Councilmember Adina.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, and thanks to my colleagues for the debate that's occurred already, particularly to Councilmember Harrison for bringing the original amendment to spur this conversation and to continue providing support for Rising Hope for Housing. I want to also echo the thanks to the members of the community who have come to share their stories and to really continue to advocate for a program that's clearly been very successful for the community that it's intended to serve. I also am interested in seeing continued support for the program and to see an increase in support for the program. To the extent that this amendment does that, I think I am going to support it as well, acknowledging that there are substantial additional needs in the community. I too am disappointed that we are in a situation where we have a crisis of need in our community. I think we're going to continue to see this crisis for the next 4 years as the federal government under the current administration continues to hack away at social service programs, at the social safety net that we value so much here in our community. And so with all of those competing needs and the ability to increase funding for Rising Hope for Housing again this year, I am going to support the amendment.
Further discussion of the amendment to the amendment? Amendment to the amendment, which, to refresh recollection, would adjust Amendment 1 from 616 to 565, correct? Thank you. Roll call vote, please. Starting with Councilmember Iyer.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Ackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Briggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Cornell?
Yes.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Councilmember Malik?
Yes.
Councilmember Redina?
Yes.
Councilmember Gaziadwan?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Further discussion of the amendment as amended. Councilmember Watson.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm grateful to the body for considering a sort of a compromise resolution here. I also want to say, I'm grateful that we're able to increase our support in terms of last year from 500 to 565,000 for Rising Hope. It's amazing work. It's the service providers who tell us the flexibility of the funds is very, very useful. I've had judges reach out to me and say, the city is really helping people who get caught in the system in any number of ways. So I'm just grateful to Councilmember Harrison. I'm looking forward to the results of this program as it continues.
Further discussion of the amendment. Regrettably, 2 for 2. Further discussion of the amendment of the amendment as amended. Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Iyer.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Ackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Briggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Cornell?
Yes.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Councilmember Malik?
Yes.
Councilmember Redina?
Yes.
Councilmember Gaziadwan?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Further discussion of DS8. Councilmember Briggs.
Yes, I would like to move Amendment 2, which is resolution to prevent roadway fatalities and serious injuries on major streets.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Cornell. Councilmember Briggs, you still have the floor.
Thank you so much. So, as folks may know, major streets are 25% of our total streets in Ann Arbor, but they experience 89% of the severe and fatal traffic crashes. And that's the basis for this amendment. I wanted to just briefly go over some of our council history on this and planning history, just to why we're here today. So in June of 2020, we adopted our Vision Zero transportation plan. In May of 2021, in our fiscal year 22 budget, council funded the Major Streets Traffic Calming Program. Then in October of that year, we contracted with Sam Schwartz to develop the Vision Zero Action Plan to guide quick build project development and develop a Major Streets Speed Management Program. The outcome of that was the Major Streets Speed Management Toolbox, which you can find on the city's website, and it provides a roadmap of how we can reconfigure our major streets and make them safer. In November of 2023, council directed the acceleration of road reconfigurations on major roads, which directs the city administrator to utilize speed management programs as well as the annual resurfacing and reconstruction program and capital projects list to evaluate opportunities for road reconfigurations and incorporate into the annual capital improvements work plan with the goal of reconfiguring multi-lane roads to advance the city's safety and sustainability goals. In August of 2024, we directed the transfer of trunk lines because we know that our MDOT roadways are sadly some of the most dangerous in our city. And just last month, we funded an engineering analysis to determine how to reconfigure our multi-lane roads. So this is a long process that we've been at and trying to make progress on making our major streets safer. And while there are a lot of good transportation projects occurring in this budget that are guided by our Vision Zero plan, there isn't any funding to move our quick build safety projects forward on our major roads. So we don't have any way to do roadway improvements on major roads outside of capital improvements projects. So we need funding for that. So that's what this amendment will do. It provides $500,000 for the quick builds projects to improve safety and access on our major streets outside of a major capital project. And in doing so, it will also increase, we'll see an increase still in capital preventative maintenance on our major streets, an increase of $1.7 million over last year's budget. The intent of these quick build funds is twofold. One, it's to have ongoing funding for our quick build program. We shouldn't need to wait for years until a capital project can move forward to fix known safety issues in our transportation network, ones that people have noted tonight. And we want to make sure that there's actually funding in this year's budget to advance projects that will emerge from the multi-lane reconfiguration study that we funded last month. So we want to make sure that by next year, we're actually acting on that. And that's going to require money this year to be able to take action.
Councilmember Ackman.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Briggs. I'm going to be somewhat repetitive, but hopefully fill some gaps. The reason why I'm co-sponsoring this amendment is because it ensures we can act quickly on some of the safety recommendations that will come out of the multi-lane road configuration study that we approved last month. These are the roads where the serious injuries and fatalities are most likely to happen, like the crash on Plymouth that's been mentioned a couple of times tonight. And we shouldn't have to wait for a full capital improvement project to make them safer. So as a reminder, the reconfiguration evaluation study that we just approved funding for is to analyze and identify opportunities to reprioritize roadway space, this is about the road configuration one, to reprioritize roadway space to advance safety, lower vehicle speeds, improve transit operations, and create connected, comfortable walking and cycling infrastructure. This could include dedicated lane for bus rapid transit. It could include a lot of things. So quick build projects are a proven way for cities to move faster. You can pilot new street designs, get feedback, and make real safety improvements, ideally in the timeline of months instead of years. Many of these elements can be turned into permanent infrastructure later. Ann Street, I think, is one local example where some quick builds, bump outs, staff is planning to make those into permanent curbs as part of that road project. But again, we were able to implement bump outs a lot faster than we could to wait for this Ann Street project. So this is about making sure our streets are not just smooth, but safe. So I think spending the money in this way is very consistent. Furthermore, consistent with all of the resolutions that many people have mentioned already that we have passed. I think staff is doing an excellent job of incorporating multimodal improvements into our capital projects. Almost every major road project I can think of over recent history incorporates some of these things, including State Street's upcoming dedicated bus lane. But what this amendment does is give them the resources to extend that kind of work beyond major capital projects so that we can respond to urgent needs more quickly.
Councilmember Cornell.
Thank you. Thank you to, I feel like I have to talk now that we've been called the ABC caucus, but actually I did have something that I wanted to add to my transportation. My colleagues who have much more expertise in that. My interest in this is economic development. I want to help attract workers to our city, retain people who want to live and work here, and attract businesses here. And so I went digging to educate myself on what those specific impacts are. And I just wanted to share some of the findings of a study from the University of Minnesota. The researchers there investigated the economic impacts of street projects on small cities and developed evaluation metrics to assess and communicate these impacts. And the impacts that were specifically studied were elements such as sidewalks, bike lanes, and pedestrian crossings. So this is exactly what we're talking about. Those road safety changes impacted significantly the business community, property values, and total private investment within the community. Employment levels rose in all of the cities that were studied, and in some cases significantly. Communities reported increased net new business gains after those improvements, and those findings suggests that these types of projects make streets more desirable for businesses because more people of varying modes of transportation can be their customers. In 8 of the 10 communities that were studied, property values across the city went up as well. A city, and then another example, a series of similar road safety projects in Seattle had no negative impact on local businesses' bottom lines, and in fact, the data concluded that those projects did, again, boost their net profits. So that kind of undermines the persistent myth that somehow slowing traffic down, making our roads safer, impacts negatively our business community. And I think you've heard more than once that is something that I'm championing for here at this table and is really important, I think, to our downtown. So this is definitely about pedestrian, bike, however you want to travel. Our roads are safer when we put them on road diets, when we introduce some of these quick build projects, not just for bicyclists and pedestrians, but for all modes of transportation. And happy news for all of us, it actually increases our economic development efforts, makes our town more attractive for people who want to live and work here and businesses who want to establish and grow here.
Councilmember Adina.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the ABC caucus for bringing this amendment forward. I also want to thank all of the community members who are here today advocating on behalf of this. I'm sorry that you have to be. I know that we've heard from you repeatedly kind of begging us to protect you when you're out using our infrastructure. And I know that a couple of you here in this room have also come to us after those accidents and indicated that, you know, if we're serious about Vision Zero, then we shouldn't have to wait until there's a major capital project or a major improvement in order to make the safety changes that we need in those areas, because we know that they're dangerous. And so I am happy to support this tonight. I will also add that I think that this is something that, I imagine that the sponsors, I imagine that members of the community, I think all of us would hope that this is something that we'll be able to continue to fund in perpetuity, so that this is something that we have regularly on hand, and that this isn't a fight every budget cycle. The one thing that I hope we can continue to have conversations about is where this funding comes from long term. Obviously, we know that that budgets are challenging for all of us, and so I'm grateful that this year we're able to pull it from this fund and continue to increase our funding for preventative maintenance. One of the things that I'd like to do, if at all possible, is to find a steady stream of funding for this long term that doesn't kind of continue to pull away from that, as we've just come off of a bonding cycle where we were trying to catch up on our lack of preventative maintenance. And so, I'm happy to continue to engage in dialogue around what that might look like as we move forward, so that we can make sure that this is something that we're continuing to fund in the future, while also kind of continuing to honor our commitments to maintaining our infrastructure. But thank you for bringing this forward, and I'm happy to support it tonight.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank the ABC caucus for bringing this forward tonight. And I also want to thank all of you for coming and consistently kind of pushing us to make better transportation infrastructure that's safer for all community members. It's unacceptable how many accidents and deaths that there have been. The Commission on Disability Issues recently reached out to me about the death of a person in a wheelchair across Huron Parkway. Irrespective of whether or not you have a disability, you shouldn't be hit by a car, and you shouldn't experience injury. And I agree that, well, firstly, I also support this. I would love for my name to also be added to it as a sponsor. And I hope that we can find an ongoing stream of funding for this, so it doesn't have to be something that you guys advocate for. Safety shouldn't be optional. So thank you. That's it.
Councilmember Malik.
Thank you. I have two questions tonight, either for staff or the administrator. The administrator's proposed budget proposed $8 million for capital preventative maintenance in fiscal year 2026. Is there a reason that specific amount was chosen for this line item? And the second question connected to that is, are there any specific projects that wouldn't be able to move forward because of this amendment?
The second question first, the answer is no. There's funding available in that particular pot that couldn't possibly be fully executed upon, so nothing is suffering as a result of this decision, should you choose to support it.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Watson. Dish, then Watson.
I want to thank my colleagues for this amendment. And I wanted to speak from the Ward 1 perspective. First, I want to give a shout out to the public commentator who spoke about having fears every time they hop on their bike. I am biking a lot, and I have that same thought go through my head. Is this going to be the day I get hit? And the connectivity from Ward 1 to the center of the city is not great. So I would like to see it get better. And I know that, and I'm really grateful to staff for the project proposed, however long it takes, on Duvarin, because that's key. I really like the points that Councilmember Cornell made about economic development, because North Main is a place where things come and go, and it's not a nice place to walk, and it's certainly not a nice place to bike. So changes in that road, if we're able to take it over, if we just change it anyway without taking it over, I think that would be some significant steam for economic development. What did I know? Anyway, so selfishly, I would like to be added to this amendment, and then you can just for one night be the ABCD. And E for Edwin Caucus.
Councilmember Watson.
I want to thank all the activists who came out here tonight, but I did want to give a specific thank you to Pete Hoke, because, you know, when there was a fatality in Ward 2 on Plymouth Road, he took me and Councilmember Malik out to walk that scene, and you know, I go by there every day. You know, you can't live on the northeast side of Ann Arbor without getting on 23 from time to time. But, you know, while we were there, there were a lot of things that we picked up on, including seeing someone make the dash across in the exact same way that had kind of resulted in a fatality. So I just really appreciate people for taking the time, you know, the activist people taking the time to come down here, but also the people who take time to kind of have these kind of one-on-one informative conversations. And I really, really hope this money is used. Well, I know it'll be used to improve safety, but I also, you know, there are trouble spots throughout the city, and some of them I'm very familiar with, and I'm grateful to the co-sponsors for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Briggs.
Wanted to thank folks for joining on as co-sponsors, and for everybody who came out tonight and keeps coming out and talking to us about how important this is, and making the case, and sharing the stories, sharing your personal stories, and sharing, sadly, the stories of people who have been killed or seriously injured in our community. This is why we're doing it. I agree, we need to find a stable source of funding for this. I do think this is a, you know, it's a good source of funding. It's our Major Streets Fund. We're doing work on major streets. It's important work that we know that needs to be done. We've heard calls for stadium and the reconfiguration of that, and, you know, selfishly, it is one of the ones that I would love to see reconfigured first. I'll just share my own personal story from yesterday, as I had to go get a last-minute pie to go give to the Picnic Pops at Pioneer High School for event walk, but I, you know, biked up to Stadium Boulevard and had to bike down Stadium in unprotected lanes that were really quite narrow, and they get a little bit wider as it goes down. It roads diets as you're heading towards Pioneer High School. There's more space there, which is great, but still unprotected. And then what happens right when you get in front of the high school? Well, the lanes drop entirely right in front of our high school, and this is what we're asking anybody to do, myself, children. It's not, you know, we know better. We have the data, we have the studies, we know what the future of transportation looks like. We need to be, reconfiguring these streets as fast as we can.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to thank my peers for their hard work on this. Very important amendment. I also, being on the north side, the night that the individual was hit and killed on Plymouth Road, my husband and I were coming back from the airport, and we passed, must have been, not much after it happened. During the pandemic, I shop at a little bougie store over there called Plum Market, and my spouse and I used to see individuals crossing the street at that same area, and this was during the pandemic when there weren't as many cars on the road, and even then it was like I would be really terrified for people seeing them just kind of run across the street to the gas station. And I knew it was problematic then, and just imagine that was like not as many cars. Referencing Duveron, that I used to bike up and down Duveron. I actually don't really do it too much anymore. I would like to say it's because I'm too busy, but that's really not the only reason. It's just because I don't feel safe biking up and down Duveron Road. So this is really important, and hopefully, I just want to also thank the activists for coming out and making your voices heard. And so I would like to be added. I did this earlier. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor. And thank you all for your work on this.
Further discussion. Councilmember Ackman.
I don't think it struck me until I was listening to everybody at this table, but if you don't live near the center of the city, you have to traverse at least one and maybe two of these to get across town. Me personally, to get to the city council meeting tonight, I have to cross Stadium and I have to navigate Huron, and both of them feel pretty harrowing to me. I do my best. I do things that you're not supposed to do as a cyclist, like ride on the sidewalk on Huron, very slowly and carefully because I don't feel safe being in the road. And, I think hearing about your experiences over on the north side, I don't even go that far. So then I'd have to cross 3 maybe. But so I don't know. It's just really striking when we think about, building higher density development on these corridors, and then also ensuring that not only is our downtown a place that people can safely get around, but that you can do so from, further outside of the downtown across the city. So thanks.
Further discussion? Councilmember Watson, then.
Just quickly to say I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thanks.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The amendment is approved. Amendment number 3. Oh, well. Now, is there anybody who would like to speak next? Councilmember Watson.
Oh, no, sorry.
I just rolled.
You're right. Moving Amendment 3. Amendment to appropriate 136, we'll have to edit that, 136,000 from the marijuana excise tax rebate to eviction prevention. 116, let's say 116,000.
Seconded by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin. Councilmember Watson, you still have the floor.
Okay, I am going to send around an amendment, including, I guess, to the title here. Okay, so my amendment to Amendment 1, it amends a whereas clause. The second to last whereas clause, it adds, we'll take 116,000 to 136,000, and it will also take the number of households helped from 65 to 75, and it will also, the final resolve clause will be will move 116 to 136,000.
First resolve clause.
First resolve clause. And now I guess I'm asking for you.
And the title as well.
And the title as well.
116 to 135.
Yeah,
to 136. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that just came around so people can.
Is there a second to that amendment to the amendment? Councilor Rodina. Is that amendment to the amendment friendly? Excellent. Councilmember Watson, you still have the floor with respect to the amended amendment at 136.
Okay. Right. Yes, I just want to speak on this amendment for eviction prevention. Eviction prevention is a really successful program. It's also a program now that we have about 3 fiscal years of data on. So it's funny, for the city, it's 3 fiscal years. It's actually about 19 months. That's how quickly we are able to get these funds out the door and spend them down. So over that 19 months, The city has spent $814,000 on eviction prevention. We've helped 455 homes. And, we've talked a bit about the specifics of the demographics. 60% families with children, 76% female, 69% African American. And, another key statistic is 56% are Ann Arbor Housing Commission program participants. So that just means that we're helping people who would be evicted even from housing commission sites. So that's how serious that need is. This is not at all in relation to Rising Hope, but I just hoped that we could continue to fund this, to continue, and because of the way the program's administered, it goes out through the Ann Arbor Housing Commission, and Ann Arbor Housing Commission also runs Rising Hope, but in this one, when we allocate funds in this way, the funds are allocated very directly by Ann Arbor Housing Commission, and often that's to their own tenants.
Further discussion of the amended amendment? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. Further discussion of the main motion as amended? Councilmember Medina.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. I'd like to move Amendment 4 to add the following resolved clause to the boilerplate text of fiscal year 26 budget.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Harrison. Councilor Medina, you still have the floor.
We just voted, didn't we?
We voted on the amendment 3 has been voted on and passed as amended.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Thank you. So this is the. Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is a rare non-monetary budget amendment, rather an amendment to the boilerplate text of the fiscal year 26 budget. As we all know, there are many justifiable and beneficial uses for drone technology, including things like search and rescue, surveying large areas after natural disasters, situational awareness during a fire, assessing active emergencies, infrastructure monitoring, and so much more. I'm grateful that our staff, including Administrator Mahoney and Chiefs Kennedy and Anderson, have spent so much time talking to me and others about this topic, and for their transparency around plans to implement these beneficial uses within city operations. Through discussions at council committee meetings and through many one-on-one meetings I've had with them over the last several months, I've been grateful to hear a consistent commitment from staff to following guidance from the ACLU as policies are developed on the appropriate use of this technology to respect privacy rights, prohibit unwarranted surveillance, and protect civil liberties. However, a critical part of ACLU's guidance stipulates that, quote, usage policy on drones should be decided by the public's representatives, and the policies should be clear, written, and open to the public. For me, this is particularly important to ensure that any policy and ultimately use of drones by the city government has council-level oversight, and that all authorized uses and any subsequent changes to the policy are approved by an accountable public body in a transparent and open process. Through my conversations with Administrator Mahoney, I have every confidence that staff is preparing to finalize a draft policy in the coming weeks to present to council. This budget amendment simply ensures that until that policy is formally adopted through an affirmative vote of the council, that fiscal year 26 budget dollars cannot be expended for this purpose. Thank you, and I encourage your support.
Further discussion? Councilmember Gazian.
Thank you. I would like to thank Councilmember Medina for your leadership on this, and I just want to remind the public that in May of last year, I and several of my colleagues helped to spearhead a facial recognition technology resolution limiting the use of it. I'm going to support this amendment tonight because it's in accordance with what we passed in the facial recognition technology, that the use of technology that potentially has risk for inaccuracy or invasion of privacy should really be made, those decisions should be made that involve the community, and with decreasing potential harm as much as possible. So I support this. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. Councilmember Iyer.
I would like to move Amendment 5, please.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Ackman. Discussion. Councilmember Iyer, you still have the floor.
Thank you. So this is the Equitable Communications to the Community Amendment, and I'm proud to support this amendment to continue funding equitable informational mailings from City Council to the community. This funding will ensure that any unspent funds from last year's communications effort are carried forward, and that we have the ability to send a second round of citywide mailings in the budget year ahead. These communications are informational in nature. They comply with all applicable laws, and they are closely reviewed by the city attorney to ensure legal compliance. There's clear precedent for this kind of outreach. Our state legislators send similar taxpayer-funded mailers to constituents on a regular basis, updating us on their legislative initiatives. We've already seen the value of this approach here at the city level in the first round of mailers that just went out recently and are still going out. Every ward team included information about the comprehensive land use plan, which meant that for the first time, every household in Ann Arbor received information about the plan and how to get involved. So that kind of reach simply isn't possible through digital newsletters or campaign mailers. And I will say campaign mailers only go to a narrow group, mostly Democrats who are frequent voters. These city mailers are different. They go to every household in Ann Arbor, no matter your political affiliation or how you vote, how often you vote. They reach people who critically don't use email, who aren't on social media, and who've never signed up for a council member's email newsletter. The digital divide is still very real in our community, especially for lower income residents, seniors, and people with disabilities. So relying only on digital communication just isn't good enough. Further, in today's media world where everything is filtered and curated, it's important to have at least one way of reaching everyone directly. This is about just making sure people can get the basics on what their local government is doing, no matter who they are or how plugged in they might be.
Further discussion. Councilmember Dish.
I would like to express my gratitude to Councilmember Iyer for having the foresight to budget for this in our last round of budgeting, because if we are hearing anything about the comprehensive land use plan, other than, gee, I need to think more about it, we're hearing, I didn't hear enough about it. And this was our first chance to remedy that. I would like to, if you'll humor me, mention that it is important that these flyers go to people who don't use email. I found it challenging to figure out how to put a link to a city webpage on a paper flyer, so I did offer instructions how to Google on our flyer. And I will also say that our flyer contained information about the Dunbar Tower, the 63-unit affordable housing project that's going up in Carytown. A person asked me if it were parking, and I was delighted to be able to tell them, no, it's housing. So not everyone is following things as closely as some do. And finally, our flyer contained information about the upcoming special election in August, which is an off year election that will allow residents of Ann Arbor to amend the city charter to repeal the 2018 Council of the Commons Amendment and authorize the city to sell its interests in the Library Lane parking structure to the AADL. I felt it was important to put that in the flyer because I don't know how many people know that that's coming up, and they are not expecting to go to the polls this August. So if anyone doesn't think that was an informational flyer, please send me an email.
Councilmember Watson.
I guess I just wanted to note that since I didn't support the initial $100,000 amendment, I'll be also voting no on this, I think. But I will say, as part of the administration committee, I think a lot of informative material was put on this, and I think that there was good work. But I do think I have to be consistent to my original vote last budget cycle.
Councilmember Ackman and Briggs.
I guess speaking to that, I was also skeptical last cycle. The context of that I felt was a bit different because we were facing a projected budget deficit, it seemed like, in the near term. And also wasn't familiar kind of with doing this. It just so happens that this landed in my mailbox today. And I think that, you know, I support anything that gets information into the hands of residents. And to the degree that, I've heard over the last couple of months, why didn't you tell us that you had a newsletter? Or just, we don't know how to do this. I think that today's information environment is very challenging, and it requires multiple channels to kind of have an opportunity to get through to people. So while this hasn't really been out long enough to get feedback on how well that's achieving that, I'm, willing to dedicate this, in all perspective, small amount of money to provide another means of people knowing who their reps are and how to access important city services.
Councilmember Briggs.
Thanks. And while I understand the intent of this, I feel fairly similar to Councilmember Watson in the sense that I'd like to remain consistent with my previous vote on this. But I also, there's another piece of this that I find a little bit troublesome. It's not just $50,000, it's $50,000 from our general fund balance. So generally, and since I just got through trying to figure out where we can get money from, we always find an offset for something, and that's what our standard is, right? If we're gonna say that we want to do something, we have to figure out what is something else we're not going to do, and that wasn't done with this amendment. And so, while I understand that this is a priority for you and for others to provide, sort of enhanced printed communications, I think we have to figure out, how do we do that within a balanced way?
Councilmember Malik.
Thank you. Given the conversation we've had the last several months around the comprehensive plan in particular, one thing I have heard is just the crucial importance of city communications. Communications often aren't the sexy topic many of us like to talk about, but I do believe they are crucially important to an informed public, engagement, all the things I personally want, because I know I don't know everything. So I love it when residents reach out, and we have a very informed public on specific topics, but they're not always informed on what's happening in the city. So I will be supporting this amendment tonight.
For my part, as someone who voted against the amendment the last cycle, I will be voting in favor of the amendment this cycle. My concerns with respect to the content of the pieces has proven entirely unfounded. They, to my eye, and if I may speak for the city attorney, since each word has been reviewed carefully by their office, they are entirely consistent with the goal of the amendment. That is to say, to provide clear, accurate, and non-political information to the public through a channel that is eye-catching and not otherwise implemented. People don't hear directly from their representatives. We don't have staffs to effect communication to residents. We don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars on our own office budgets to affect this kind of communication typically. It's important that residents know some of the things that their city is doing. It's important that they understand who their representatives are for both, for various advocacy and constituent service purposes. And so I think that the communications have been positive, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to again support them. And I should say, thanks to Councilmember Iyer for visioning the whole silly thing in the first place. Further discussion. Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Iyer.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Ackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Briggs?
No.
Councilmember Cornell?
Yes.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
No.
Councilmember Malik?
Yes.
Councilmember Redina?
Yes.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Further discussion of the main motion as amended. Councilmember Briggs.
Since I just wanted to say thank you to our staff that provided so much support during this process and helped us get through for budget amendments, provided some some options there around how we might be able to think through this and accomplish our goals. So each time we go through this process, I am just really incredibly impressed by the wealth of knowledge and access and help that our staff provides us. So thank you to all.
Further discussion? I'd like to just say this. This budget is the result of months and untold hours of work performed by residents in doing their part to advocate, council members doing their part to review, but ultimately, of course, to staff for honestly doing it all. This budget affects the purpose of local government, that is to say, to improve basic services and enhance quality of life. We're talking about some items today, but it's important to understand, and it's important for members of the public to have in their forefront that this budget touches everything that the city does. Police, fire, ambulance, drinking water, stormwater, sanitary, streets, sidewalks, snow removal, solid waste, recycling, composting, planning, housing, construction, building and rental inspections, court services, climate action, renewable energy, parks, and free and fair elections. These are the things that your local government does for you today that helps you with your everyday lives. These are the things that will form the foundation for an amazing community tomorrow. We, and by that I mean your city staff, do all these things with care, professionalism, enthusiasm, vision, and skill. We do these things with a rigorous attention to the bottom line, ceaseless stewardship of public dollars, retaining our rare and well-deserved AAA bond rating. For my part, I am proud of this budget and incredibly grateful for the staff that has worked so hard and well to devise it for our review, and ultimately, and most importantly, for our community members' collective and individual benefit. Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. Do we have the pleasure of a closed session today?
No, thank you, Mayor.
We have before us the clerk's report of communications, petitions, and referrals. May I have a motion, please, to approve the clerk's report, moved by Councilmember Diss, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? The clerk's report.
You got one person.
I'm getting there. But thank you. I'm not unerring, but it's not. We're not quite there yet. I haven't yet erred, is my point. Motion to approve. Did we vote on the clerk's report? Yeah. All right, thank you. Ms. Kaur, other communications of the city attorney?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And now, unless I'm much mistaken, we have public comment overflow. Public comment overflow occurs when we have folks who have signed up for public comment but who've not had the opportunity to speak at public comment at the outset of the meeting. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Our first public comment overflow speaker today is Alan Haber.
He left.
He did. Is he online? Alan Haber.
Mayor, I don't believe he's online.
Our next speaker is Jeremy Haley.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Jeremy Haley, Ypsi Township. About rising hope for the people who can't get housing. You might want to look into the insurance policies that some of these places use. It might be written into the policies as there might be a liability. It might be somewhat discriminatory in a way, written in a way that they can write them out because, hey, if you have so many people here of such stature, we're going to have to charge you more insurance, so therefore they don't rent out. So it's something to look into. Because if you get into stuff like that, we all remember Toys R Us, right? Private equity group bought that turned it, sold the properties and rented the properties back to Toys R Us and bankrupted the whole company, and the equity group ran off with the money. That's what I'm saying. It's within the policies of these companies that you actually really need to look at into how they actually function, how they can actually screw people over. What I'm here to is like the overall character of Ann Arbor as you guys go forward. You really need to keep that in mind as you guys are going forward with the bike pass, the comprehensive land use, all that, because that really matters. As the city develops, the character develops with the city. And if it's just a hodgepodge of this, and that, you just come up with a bunch of random mess of this and that. I'm just asking you to keep that in mind as you go forth. Because if you go in, I don't know if any of you have been to Stivers off exit 162 in Chelsea, a little bar that's been there for a while. They actually got some really old pictures of the Ann Arbor Stadium, pretty much when it was first built. And you can look behind there in Main Street and there's nothing, and just a couple places, and a couple older pictures of the town. You know, and what I'm saying with that is the character comes with it. And like, I've asked people, what does Carytown remind them of? And all I got answers back was the farmer's market and the architecture of the buildings. And now there's, the Dunbar Tower, there's another tower. You're taking away what made Carytown was the architecture, just increased density. Same thing with Packard Row. I'm going down Packard, all of a sudden you look past Fraser's, it's like, oh, this gaudy thing that's not even on a perfect angle, on one side's on a, it's like, what the, is it retail? And so, just take that in mind when you do all that, because it does matter, the overall character of the town and who comes in and lives here. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there communications from council? Oh. I love to hear from you, but really, honestly, not that much. May I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by.
So, this gentleman here wanted, he was not here when they called his name. He's on the list. That's not?
That's not.
Okay. Okay.
Regrettably.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Cornell. Dish. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.